Hey, it's Crumbs. You're lost? How do you not know where you are? It's Thorin's channel.
Okay, this is episode 1 of a show called Narrative Wake. Now, everyone on this show doesn't even know the name of the show, and I'm not even going to reveal what that name means, because I think it's good actually to establish like a baseline of mystery, and there's a lot of stupid people on the internet, and a lot of them consume esports content, so I like stupid people to think that they can get to the bottom of the mystery, they can figure out what it means, and they can speculate and all that sort of thing, and then later on, as you know, will be the trend of this show, I will explain to them in a future episode why they're entirely wrong and don't know anything and should just be quiet and listen to me and other people I invite on this show. So I've started how I mean to go on, and episode 1, my co-host is going to be Kelsey Moser, and I haven't just chosen her for this show as like the token nerd that actually watches the games but isn't like a huge name, and you need to have one of those in there so that it's not just Travis and his friends talking about the game very loosely, you know, and semi-memeing. I mean, memes are actually meant to be funny, but trying to meme. So Kelsey's actually a regular co-host here and will hopefully impart some jewels to us. I don't feel like there's any concern about the fact she does other shows on the side because, again, no overlap. You know, this is just pure quality analysis and content. Yeah, so where would the overlap be? So it's fine. Just do whatever you want on the side. You know, we can all have fun. Listen, I fuck around on the side, you know, but it doesn't have to affect the show, right? So our guests for this episode, we'll start at the bottom right-hand corner. They don't know where they are in the overlay, obviously. So there we go. And his camera's gone. So
what?
That's brilliant.
My camera just
started. So there we go. Right. So in the bottom right-hand corner, so since they don't know where they are in the overlay, guys, follow along, is someone who, you know, was pretty good in most games he played early on. Never really made it as a pro, though. Has been trying to coach in the challenger scene. Again, never really made it, you know. Has flirted with commentary at that. I'm purposely trying to keep it so they don't know which one it is right now. It's actually LS I'm going for this one now. I was trying to make it tease it there for like Loco, because obviously Loco's tried and failed in many of those areas as well. So LS is technically and officially the coach of Tempo Storm, and he used to commentate the LCK. But bizarrely, one day we all just woke up like an alternate reality, and he just wasn't commentating the LCK. No one ever explained why that was. He's never explained why that was. And then we all are just supposed to go on in the conceit that it's like some 1984 shit. He never commentated the LCK. What are you talking about? It was always Crumbs there. What are you guys talking about? So apparently I'm the only one who has questions about that. I think that's reasonable to just never address publicly and just go the rest of our lives like, oh, did that happen? Or was I in a coma and it just came out or something? No, it wasn't. That did happen, LS. Just like your name wasn't just LS. You can't just erase history, you know. Things happened. You have to process them and deal with them. You can't just literally ignore that they happened and continue on with your life. Even though that's actually, now I think about it, basically what I did with that show, Somebody Insight, and the fact that Monty left. But we'll ignore that. That'll be the last reference to him in this show, because he doesn't exist, and that show doesn't exist anymore. So the last guest on this show is a man who, as I hinted at before, has lived many lives. He was, at one point in time, a good to very good, depending on who you're talking to, you know, someone else or him, player of League of Legends. Then he was a good to very good, depending on who you're talking to, pick me or everyone who was a fan of TSM coach. And now he is a good to very good person trying to be the head coach. See, I mean, that's obviously his dream the whole time, wasn't it? To not just be coach, be like head coach. It sounds more Korean that way. He's trying to get a team into the LCS in the era of franchising, so good luck to him. But the thing is, to live many lives, you've also got to die many deaths. And I think that should be the name of a documentary made about you, Loco, The Many Deaths of Locodoco, because, you know, everyone remembers the deaths, right? It doesn't matter how great the acting is. It's that death scene. And what I like about you is that you like Doctor Who. You have resurrected many times, this time as a woman. So props to you for that.
Oh, so, for Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yes.
yeah, I get you.
I mean, in many ways, your life
you have
on
something
Twitter,
against that, Thorin, by the way?
Against what? I think Doctor Who's shit anyway, so I think it's fitting. There you go. You like that? You didn't expect that hot take, did you? Yeah, exactly. Well, you woke me up. There you get the answer. So
I mean, the real story is that we're all just here to sit and listen to Thorin. For at least the first 15 minutes.
Is that the show, actually? It's like Thorin.
I think everyone is aware. At some point in time, there will be a chance
like something
to
Thorin
respond.
would do.
It is, isn't it? Like, listen, Loco, I did an entire 3-hour interview just with myself. I'll do a fucking talk show with myself if you want. I'll record all the parts separately and then ask myself.
Okay.
I'll even pretend to be all of you. I'll just be like, oh, Thorin, what do you think of LCK? Thorin the journalist. Well, another thing is, I'll do it. Don't challenge me. And then it'll be better than every other talk show that ever existed. So anyway,
I mean,
on
you're
those
Budget
lines,
Travis Gafford, Kelsey's just Kelsey. I'm Budget Mark
Okay.
Z, and LS can be Budget Emily. We'll try our best to match State of the League.
It's not called State of the
State of
League,
the
but
League,
you've
no.
just given away that you haven't watched any of
He
these
just
shows in about
doesn't-
4 years.
I actually have never watched any
no,
of them.
why
Just
would you?
doesn't change the name of his YouTube channel to live back to better and happier days, I guess.
I mean, if you think about it, that's the fitting response, Locodoco. To not watch a show of people who don't watch League of Legends. That'll be what they wanted. It's in the spirit of the show, isn't it? So just pretend like you have and just talk roughly around it. Seems to work for them. Right, so we'll start this episode with discussion of the best league in the world, LCK. Obviously, that's a little bit awkward for us because he's then remembering, like, oh yeah, I remember all that stuff Thorin said about how I used to be the commentator of that, but we've never addressed that. So anyway, I know you watch the LCK LS. You used to actually watch it from, some would say, the best seat in the house and talk about it and have your thoughts heard. But where we've got to start, obviously, is let's set the baseline, okay? Because with the playoffs coming up, in the first round of the playoffs, we have the team who normally play in the finals. We have SK Telecom, admittedly a newer variant of it. Mm-hmm. How is it possible that LCK has SK Telecom in the first round of the playoffs, Loco?
SKT shit the bed in the middle of the split. And I think they didn't really recover until the final weeks. And then in the final weeks, I mean, they had relatively okay showings in like the final games.
Yes.
I don't think it's anything like too worrying. And I mean, I guess sometimes it can happen, but they were in a rough streak. And when you watch the games, they just all like as a entire unit, they look off. Like it's just weird. And sometimes that happens in gaming. Players can go through, not just players, but teams in general can go through phases where everything is just not clicking. There can be stuff that's happening perhaps behind the scene. There was those with the Inven posts on like the lack of practice and the lack of seriousness and was it post-riff rivals and all that good jazz. So, I mean, I feel like it's sort of whatever, and they shouldn't be judged by it. I think the other narrative side to it is what are the teams that rose up and kept getting better as the summer split went on, because that's equally as important, because then when you tie in, even if SK Telecom has a slight slump, it does enable them to be knocked down a peg because of how much the other teams came up.
Sure. So, Loco, you are one of the people who praises Coma to the heavens. You think this guy is the best thing to ever touch League of Legends coaching. He just always knows how to use his players.
Why does it have to be
using
so black and white?
subs.
I think Coma's really good, but you make it so black and white. You take every argument to the extreme.
Yeah, it's suspicious how suddenly there's a big grey area when he's shit in the bed completely and none of the things he's trying is working, But when he's like the world champion 10 times over, it was kind of like what I was just saying there, wasn't it? So explain to me why it's not like that then.
Oh, no, I still think Goma's really good. That, what is it? The recent slump doesn't really change my opinion of Goma that much.
So, his coaching has no effect, do you think, on the problems they've been having? I mean, he's been subbing players in and out. He's the one who's in charge of practice, If you give people praise when they succeed, surely they've got to take some blame when they lose.
I mean, sure, he can share some of the blame, but I think what LS said is really true. Maybe even a year ago, it used to be just SKT and Rocks, or sometimes SKT and KT. And then now, Samsung's not a joke. Longzhu somehow put it together, but I don't think they'll do that well this playoff. I'm sure we'll talk about that. And KT actually got their shit together, or more accurately, Pawn started getting his shit together. So when SKT took a slight dip, there were already all these teams ready to take over. like back when it was just like SKT and Rocks, like if SKT took a slight dip and they like lost a set versus Africa, they would still be first, and there weren't teams that were very good. There were a lot of middle of the pack teams, but now I feel like there's at least 3 top teams in Korea. So that slight mishap just looks really punishing.
Kelsey, they've managed to talk around this topic very, very well. They've set the perimeter of the topic, but they haven't. So far, I haven't even heard a single SKT player mentioned. Apparently, we're not going to blame the coach entirely. We're crediting somehow SKT doing badly with other teams doing well. Have there been players who have been problematic within SK Telecom?
I think that it goes back to a little bit when I watch the SKT games. It goes back to, first of all, like how they've been using wards. The way that Wolf plays, like, and the way that they play around Wolf and the way that they play around mid. I think that for a really long time, SK Telecom have really emphasized vision denial a lot, sometimes over placing their own vision. And I think that they like control the jungle entrance to the red buff on blue side very well, using vision denial, most importantly, like rushing sweeper trinkets much earlier, and they kind of like started that trend. But at the same time, in order to control vision that way, if you're going to play super far forward mid, which like Faker likes to do, obviously, you kind of need to have a strong jungle support 2v2 in the meta right now. And for a while, Wolf was playing like these like mage supports before the buff of Coin and before like Arden was a huge thing. And they were losing a lot of these jungle support 2v2s. It was like really hard for Wolf to contest like the river vision in that area. So I think that that was like a big issue. Now we see Wolf on Alistar. We know like historically Wolf can play Alistar. That's like always been his like go-to engaged champion. But like I think outside of the Alistar stuff, like Wolf has had a few gaps around engage meta, and that's like always been his like less full meta as opposed to when he plays like the mage 2v2s. And I think that it's a little bit harder for them to win the bot lane 2v2 when he's playing in this form. So I think that that'll be really interesting when he's not getting Alistar every game, because I think that's a champion that like really should be denied a lot more anyway. So
okay.
Wow. I'm not sure how. Wait, can I
sure,
add
yeah,
on to that? I'm not sure how long you've known Wolf. I actually like used to play with Wolf, and whenever I played with him,
you haven't mentioned that before. You should have brought it up before a few times.
Sure, and also watching his playstyle, I feel like he's way more comfortable on these engage supports, and especially the melee supports like Alistar, Rakan, known for his catch.
I mean, I think that every time like we've seen, for example, like even MSI, obviously there was a lot of stuff going on in MSI that was not related at all, but like he really surged up. He actually roams mid much more on champions like Janna than he does on a lot of these other stuff. But like, I think people really tunnel on how well he's known for his Alistar, and I think his Tahm Kench is fine too. But I don't think he's like played as well on some of the other stuff. Like, you don't think of him as like the big Thresh player that Gorilla is, or things like that. Like when you think of Wolf and Engage, you think of Zyra. Like, so first of all, things like that. So I think that that's something that I like question Wolf a little bit on, and I think that he's surged much more, and their bot lane has done much better in 2v2s, like in mage metas, for example.
Okay. Has the meta itself got anything to do with the downfall of SKT? If it had just stayed the same as at the beginning of the split, would they be where they are now, do you think, LS?
I think that's really grasping at something. I think SK Telecom's meta, like, if we're gonna talk about someone potentially being hit, you would immediately think it's Peanut, right? With the change to the jungle pool, and you know, he's a mechanical player. High highs.
Like, I think 7.14 actually helped SKT a lot more. So if you're talking about the jungle stuff, because of the way that they group, and their issues were predating 7.14. So I think that that's like the other aspect of that side. I don't think that the fact that they're struggling with the meta out of the gate means that like they're sucking in the meta. I think it just means that they're adapting more slowly because of these issues that we've seen historically. And it's not just Wolf, right? Like, I also think the SKT vision philosophy was having like caused them to have like a few difficulties when, if you don't have pressure bot, that you can like transfer mid, right? Because that's what a lot of this has been, is like you get pressure bot and then you roam mid and you gank mid, but your mid is playing like really far forward. It's a little bit harder to play the way that Faker does. And then if on top of that, you're emphasizing like denial over securing your own vision in some cases, I think it ends up being like a little bit of a snowball problem in some instances, and we do see like Faker get caught out like in the lane a little bit more. So I think that that's just like these little tiny subtle things were causing them to have troubles. Do I think that means that like SKT are dead? No, but I think that those are issues that they were having.
So Loco, you're one of the people who, for whatever reason, is like a believer in blank, and you on that Thorin versus Loco episode we did, you tried to like. It was the most ridiculous crowbar narrative I've ever heard, which is that somehow Blank would take over from Bengi as the like super clutch sort of closer who'd be brought in at the end, right? But one thing I will say is, for some reason, apparently Coma thinks the same thing, because he does keep bringing him into these games whenever Peanut has a problem, even though the part that doesn't make any sense about that is it was Blank who was being replaced for not being the clutch guy who closed in the old lineup. So what do you actually think about the jungle situation for SK Telecom?
I'm telling you, it's Legend of the B. If your name starts with B, it goes from Bengi to Blank, and then you just come in clutch as fuck. I mean, so what I think of the SKT jungle situation.
Yeah.
So I think like one thing we were talking about earlier regarding like the jungle pool that I do want to touch on, which follows up into this, is like the general consensus is we're in a tank meta, and especially for people that don't watch Korea as much but that watch NA, like that's really true. A lot of junglers are playing stuff like Maokai, Sejuani, Gragas, but Korea, like jungle pool is actually completely different. There's a lot of Elise, Rek'Sai, Jarvan, and Gragas being played, so their meta is actually a lot more aggressive and not as like tank focused. Like, of course, there is some Maokai, there is some Sejuani, but it's nothing like NA, and I think it's such a.
Why do you think that is, though?
Well, because Korea likes playing fast tempo, or if I explain NA and Korea meta really, really quickly, everyone plays like similar things in AD, but in support, NA prefers a lot of the range supports. They like Janna a lot. They play a lot of Lulu and Morgana. In Korea, it's almost exclusively melee champions other than Thresh, Rakan, Alistar, and Braum. And then for top lane, Korea prefers a lot of the carries, Jarvan, Jace, Gnar, what else? Jarvan,
Camille.
Jace, Gnar, Camille. And then for jungle, I just talked about. And for mid, Korea loves the fast tempo mids, like stuff like Talia. So in Korea, like the meta is like very, very fast. You get ahead mid. You get ahead mid, you take 2v2s mid with your strong jungler, and then you usually dive top because it's a carry matchup, and then the bot lane is like kind of safe. So, I mean, with that being all said, I don't think like Blank was ever that like great at the 2v2s, and his strength more came from like intelligent pathing, being at the right spot. So that's like a knockdown on SKT, even with like Faker being the best, and Faker like kind of playing cocky, like that goes hand in hand. The mid and jungle really just have to be on point, and it feels like Faker's being cocky and Blank can't like keep up with the cockiness, and like Peanut's like just lost until like recently. Peanut just felt lost whenever I watched him play. It felt like he was overcompensating a lot. So I mean, that's my like eagle eye view on what's going on with SKT regarding the jungle situation, and I try to give as much context as possible. So I hope that helped.
Okay. But the thing is, that's not the only position that we've seen substitutes. Also, in the top lane. So the whole story of the spring split was, oh, look, Coma's even more of a brilliant coach than we thought, because he's brought in Huni, this kind of, raw talent, who no one else could kind of reach, and he's refined him, and he's turned him into a tank player, and all these things that were going right in the spring split. But hasn't that, to some degree, kind of spiraled a bit out of control with SKT's top lane?
Well, I think if there's like two people that are going to tilt on SKT if they do badly, it would be like Huni and Peanut. Because one, their personalities and their age, they're both extremely young, and they both like had extremely high highs already. So when they experience lows, I feel like they wouldn't deal with it as much. And I feel like they are the pressure, or players with like the most pressures onto them. For one, I mean, they joined SKT, so you are in one of the most pressured situations. And two, also like Huni like has this like, oh, he can't work in the Korean system, so he probably has that pressure. And for Peanut, he has okay, I ditched all my like good teammates and I came to the Omega team, like the team where everyone always wins. And then like if I lose in this team, then it's my fault. So I feel like, yeah, it's the combination of that, like a lot of pressure, the circumstance and expectation onto them, and them crumbling whenever they're doing badly. Like Huni doing badly is actually surprising. Like Peanut's like really young, and like from how he behaves and like what I know of him from like hearing from other people and like seeing him play, like he seems like he could be like weak. He could be like weak mental sometimes, but like Huni always seemed like he would be someone that would be very like, even when things are going wrong, like he'd be more of a rock.
When they've had issues elsewhere on the map, why haven't they just been able to kind of fix the two problems in one go? Like, there's all these carries you can play in the top lane now. Just turn Huni loose a little while. Let him go back to his old strengths. Why do you think they've never employed that?
Actually,
they have kind of. I mean, they've played like drafts with where he plays on Fioras and things like this. So I think it's actually been, to an extent, he started the season playing tanks, and I think that sort of compensated for some of his problems, because if you're pushing forward and there are some issues like with traditional Huni problems where you're pushing forward when you shouldn't be pushing forward, or then it's easier to cover some of that up or to recover from that, because you're, oh yeah, I kind of meant to do this, and you use the CC on the jungler ganking, and then your jungler comes and it's fine. Whereas I think that with some of the Fioras, it's a little bit more punishing. And then, so I think that's been an issue with Huni when they're trying to, but I think that they kind of have to try to, because they're getting pressure in side lanes, right? And so while they were, like, bot lane was losing a little bit more, so they were trying to get more pressure in top side lane and then transferring that pressure mid. So I think that they kind of had to go to that side. And then, like, you have more of the bot solution. Huni's playing Cho'Gath. Games are going better. I don't know. I think it was all right.
Do you buy the storyline that they're losing, but people aren't playing enough and they aren't dedicated enough, etc.? That just seems like something very convenient to say once you're losing, because I've noticed, as we've seen with the drama with Bang, Koreans really do have this ridiculous mentality that, like, oh, the person who wins must be the one who is the most dedicated and diligent guy. That's like the one they always spin, and therefore if you don't win, you should play more, which is like, there's not really any connection there. All the top teams are playing a lot, surely.
I mean, if you're not winning, like, or if you're winning, then you can't really be blamed. Like, if you're fucking kicking butt, like, sure, it's just, maybe they've always been that way, and it's only problematic like when they're losing. That's how I would feel about it. Like, if you're number one in the world and you're winning, and like the rhythm and the cycle you have going on is constantly giving you a result, like, who is anyone to like criticize that? And then now that they're showing like problems, like, people are being more open with criticism and blaming things.
Okay. I mean, there's a correlation that their solo queue activity was a lot higher in the first like 3 or 4 months of the year. Yeah. And I know this because I used Korean solo queue accounts as a metric against Western accounts for some arguments early on in the year. And then I think that what Loco's saying is accurate, that for 7 months they have success for the most part, and they're being basically unmatched, and it looks like they're going to have free road to Worlds, and they're going to have another championship, more skins, and whatever else they want. But again, tying back into the original story of the other teams got better. So they could have been doing that all along, but I think they do take a slight dip in activity, and that's just evident. Like, people can look that up. Is it enough to warrant the fall from grace? I don't think the activity warrants the fall from grace. I think the other teams need to be credited in addition to like the slight slack off from SKT. But I don't think it's wholly inheritive of like, oh, we're just playing less, we lose. No, that's asinine. It's just not accurate.
I mean, I do find it really weird, right? Because like SKT thing is that even though it's almost more impressive when they were doing really well internationally and in the best team in the world during times when maybe Korea was a little bit more top heavy and they didn't have like as much theoretical competition as they do now. So I feel like because of that, SKT is a team that always pushes themselves inherently, internally, right? And so they're always just like constantly reevaluating and looking at these things, and that's how they stay on top if they don't have competition. And doing that is like really impressive and really admirable. So to me, it feels weird that this is the narrative suddenly, you know, like where Faker is always like, I'm just always playing everything. So it feels weird that, and maybe there is like actual evidence that they're playing with solo queue and stuff is going on. But then it makes me kind of wonder, like, why is that the case anyway?
Why is it even like a problem, to be honest? Like, they are doing badly. But it's kind of ridiculous. Like, they've been the best team in the world for like the last 3 years, and like they're having like this slight dip, and like people are blowing it so much out of proportion. It feels like more of like people just randomly ganging up on SKT. Like all these fans, like for years.
Wait a minute.
But it's
made
weird.
comments on the stream, okay?
Slight dip. Like, when did SKT in the past ever just go on like a mad losing streak and get pushed in international competitions?
This is the worst they have been. Like, I'll admit that, but it's just the bar for them has been set up so high, and like in some ways, like so inhumane. Like it's actually like we should have been impressed. Like in like the last 3 years of like, oh my god, SKT is so fucking good. How can they be this good all the fucking time? But like that's no longer the case, and it's just the norm for SKT to be the best team in the world. And when they're not, like people go crazy.
I don't think that's necessarily a contradiction, though, right? Because if you're constantly impressed by SKT, which I am, and then suddenly they're doing like this poorly, then that's shocking, right? And it's not necessary. You can be critical. Like, you can be critical when teams are doing poorly when they're not typically. Like, every time there is, it's you ask more of the why questions because they're this good, and there are reasons that they're this good. And I think that that's fair. I don't know if, like, I haven't said that it's a huge problem that SKT are failing. I'm saying, like, they're losing, and these are possible reasons why.
Okay.
They came off Rift Rivals, and they lost 8 games in 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Not really just a dip. More like off the edge of a cliff.
Well, yeah, but it's 8 games in 7 days. This isn't 8 games spread across a month.
It's also in a row, right?
In Korea, like, the games are played much closely together, though.
Sure.
So that's what I'm trying to say is like they're. I mean, stuff.
So they just had a bad week for you, yeah?
Not
they had a terrible week.
There are players noticeably worse, but of those 8 losses, 4 of them are to Samsung and Longzhu, right? And if you dive into the games and you look at the games, yes, their play is noticeably off, but I don't think there was ever a cause for concern that's like, oh, SKT look. Like they're absolutely fucking terrible. Like something that looks completely wrong. I don't think that was ever present. And then in the final weeks of SKT's play, I mean, they recover.
This is where I should have had Froscorin on the show, because, you know, all these years we've had to listen to the Korean elitists shitting on every good LPL team.
Oh god!
Or even if they're the best, they're like, oh yeah, but it's just the best at LPL. You know, if they have any flaw, it gets made out as though they're just cretins who don't even know how to play the meta game. You know, then suddenly SK Telecom, oh, you little golden boys, oh, the ones that do everything right, Loco, best player at every single position, mate. A guy who literally, in your world, probably is like fucking Brandon Stark, like went back in time, coded the game himself to be exactly how he'd coach it, and be exactly, spoilers there from someone that hasn't even happened yet, I'm writing it in my own brain. But yeah, suddenly they've got all these mad flaws, almost every player on the team's having issues, people aren't even the best at their roles, and all of a sudden it's like, nothing to see, nope, they'll get it together, let's move along, nothing to see here, like, come on, what is this?
Maybe it's not on this show, but from my point of view, like the problems and like everything just seems so overblown. Okay. And like it seems more vengeful than anything.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. Why are you so confident that this is just like a bump in the road and, you know, they'll get it together in the playoffs, it won't be an issue? I mean, the problems you've seen so far, what makes you think that'll just be gone when they play this playoff series?
I don't think it'll just like be gone. I think like there is a higher chance of SKT losing in like out of playoffs than there ever has been, but I guess like it's not just the show. It's like it's just been so overblown about like their fall from grace. I guess it's maybe the storyline was that juicy.
I understand why though, because it's like for months, and this storyline has actually annoyed me much more the story has been, oh, League of Legends is boring because SKT is just going to win. So I understand why people are immediately latching on to SKT losing games and being like, oh my gosh, like they fall for grace. Who's going to be the next team? Like, are they ever going to come back? And this is suddenly exciting to the people who have been pushing the League of Legends is boring because SKT always wins narrative.
Which never really made sense if you think about it, because by that logic, every single SKT versus Flash Wolves or Afrika Freaks game should have been the highest viewed game in the history of the fucking league. Because it was always the ones where they could lose, but that had no impact on it whatsoever. Meanwhile, when they played a KT in every playoffs and you knew they were going to win, that's the game everyone fucking tuned into. So that's one of those ones where I feel like people just complain, but they aren't even being entirely, like, they're not complaining in good faith, They're kind of being a bit disingenuous in their own argument, I never really bought that angle myself. So, okay. LS, you also sound like, anyone can have a bad 8 days. I mean, apart maybe from the setup, you just had a bad 8 days. Maybe everything's going to pick up for you. So here's the question. Mm-hmm. Does that also mean you think that it'll be fine in the playoffs? There won't be any issues, there won't be any holdover from the issues they had in the split?
I think they make it to KT, and then I think it really all just depends on how KT is going to show up. But I think that they should be not a breeze, but they should get to KT. I think they'll be fine versus Afrika. I think they'd be fine against Samsung Galaxy. And then I think they make it to KT. I don't know if they get past KT.
You think they'll just go past Samsung? I actually think Samsung's so good right now.
I think they'll beat Samsung. I don't think that Samsung. I think they'll beat Samsung, but I think Samsung can take a game.
Wait a minute, just before we go on.
What?
Speaking of beating Samsung, has someone beaten out of you saying Samsung or whatever it was that you said before? Because first of all, I already picked up on this earlier when you said Longzhu. Why would someone who lives in Korea ever say Longzhu when it'd be Longzhu? And we all know they can't say the letter Z. So what is going on right now, Ellis? I need to know what's happened to you. Did you die at LCK and you're like a clone or something, or being replaced like Paul McCartney in the Beatles and I Am the Walrus? What's going on right now?
Transferred back to NA.
Yeah, what's going on right now, Ellis? Come on. You were friends. Open up.
I had to be conscious of how I was saying it during the cast.
Okay.
That's literally it.
There never was a cast. I know, exactly. The internal Tempo Storm casts. If indeed Tempo Storm's still a thing at the time of this being
Worlds 2016.
Yes, Worlds 2016. Okay, but they broke you?
Yeah.
Man alive. I never thought I'd see
no
the
more
day.
Samsung.
Never thought I'd see the day.
It's weird when I talk to a Korean or something, I'll actually still say Samsung, but if I'm speaking like English with English speakers, I'll say Samsung now. I don't know. Weird.
Okay. Well, RIP.
Yep.
So, okay, right, back to what you're saying. So you think that they will beat Samsung, but they will lose to KT, in theory, assuming KT doesn't just shit the bed.
Yeah. In theory.
So then let's go. Loco, why do you think Samsung are good?
I actually think Crown stepped it up so much this season. Ambition's actually, I never imagined. I thought after he got married, that would pretty much be it, and he being more of a mentor type to Haru. It's very interesting to see him do this well.
You really think Crown has stepped up a lot? 'Cause this split, I feel like Crown has been a little bit less dominating in lane in terms of matchups that he should be winning and matchups that he did really well on in spring, for example. So I still feel like I see that a little bit, especially in the Longzhu series. And granted, he was against VGD, but he made a lot of errors that he wouldn't make, where he gave up minions or he mistimed the wave. So I don't know.
So one thing that I value, I guess Samsung on, maybe it's a narrative in my head. You guys can tell me about it. I think Samsung, especially Crown, preps really well for certain matchups. This guy, they spam solo queue so much, and when they know exactly what champions that they're gonna play and when they have to play versus, I feel like Crown plays those matchups extremely well. And right now with Talia popularity, Cassiopeia popularity, what else is popular in Korea?
Corki.
Talia, Corki, when the pull is very, very evident. When the pull is very, very evident. Faker will play whatever he wants to play.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing, right? Like, if your thing is that the pool is very, very evident, but if like you're talking specifically about SKT versus Samsung, so
okay, maybe Faker
Crown's pool is good against Faker's pool. What?
It's Talia.
It depends on what Faker's going to play, right? So
I guess it pulls it out. But Faker's what is Faker's top two? Orianna and Cassio, right? So
yeah, but that's not necessarily.
But Kelsey thinks
he's been playing though.
But Kelsey thinks she's gonna pull out random stuff like Lucian and like other picks that Crown might not be prepped versus. My narrative is Crown and Samsung overall just prep really well. They come together as a group really well at critical times, and they play very. Their game plan is very cut and clear whenever I see them play in playoffs, and I can see that they put a lot of prep into it. So, especially when SKT has been shaky, like I feel like Samsung is a team that, like straight up might win. And also, I like the top matchup for Samsung a lot, and I think Korea is so top heavy, or not top or top
lane heavy.
Yeah, top lane centric. That's the best way to put it. So that's why I like that matchup for Samsung.
I'll give you that I actually like Samsung better in best of fives and best of threes because I do feel like their adaptation is actually super good. Also, so I guess I can see that, but I just do think that with the way that SKT have been playing, especially in the recent weeks with like the Elise, the Lucian, they're looking to close games a lot faster. I feel, and Samsung might be like SKT have like rapidly shifted into that direction, which is really weird for them, but I think it makes sense with them picking up Huni and Peanut. So for me, I think that that's where Samsung are a bit iffier, especially traditionally. So, and since SKT like already have the foundation of being able to play like the Samsung game, also yeah.
Don't you think Samsung's like when I think Samsung, I also think of them as a really sturdy team. Like if you try to bust them open in the early game, and it does, like it's really hard to bust them open in the early game.
But
and
that's
what I think she means by the style. Like Samsung, like the thing I preached about at Worlds last year is, they'll concede early, concede mid, and then they'll scale late, and then they fight. But that plays right into SK Telecom. I don't think there's a team with a better late game than SKT, like absolute late game.
That's good. Your carries being good is all that late game is.
So I think that plays against Samsung Galaxy in the best of five stylistically. And I feel like there's so much that goes into it, and with the meta being the way that it is right now, I think in some ways it favors Samsung, and in other ways it favors SKT. Who
do you think it favors overall?
I think overall, like in theory, it should favor Samsung more than SKT. I think right now.
With the way the way that Korea's been playing.
With the way jungle and support is, I think Ruler should be better off than Wolf. I think Ambition should be better off than Blank or Peanut. I think top lane is in a better spot for Cuvée. And I think mid lane is sort of irrelevant with some of the champions that can be picked. Like, there's only so much that you can actually do against a properly piloted Talia or Orianna. Like, if they want nothing to happen.
I think mid pool is really weird because, like, I think Faker will be the one who's playing the mid lane a bit differently, but I do think right now it's you just play these two champions and then side lanes win mid for you. But, yeah, I don't... It's a good point, I guess. But I still think that like you have the general pool, right? And then I think that SKT were playing a little bit differently in the past week. So that's like a warning sign for SKT also. But I also, since definitely like they had problems in the BBQ series where they weren't prepping their dragons and even just beyond like the highlight matches that we were watching. So yeah, I mean, I guess I could see Samsung take it, but I'm a lot more hesitant and a lot more worried about Samsung because I feel like Samsung, towards the second half of the split, were having a lot of their own problems that were separate from, like, yeah, they didn't bleed 9 games in a row or anything like that, but I think that they definitely had issues keeping control of mid. I think that, like, when they play Haru especially, you can see a lot of the issues where Haru did a lot of these, like, risky invades in the past, but in spring in particular, and Haru was looking so good, but that's because Crown had a lot of pressure all the time. And I think that a lot of that pressure has been subsiding, and it could be a combination of things, but I do think that part of it is the fact that Crown isn't like playing as well as he did in spring.
Okay. My hot take is if SKT beats Samsung, they'll win summer. If they lose to Samsung, then they just lose to Samsung. But I think
the last part was somewhat redundant, but you know, I think I get the point, Loco. Yes.
Yeah, we get what you mean.
Okay.
I really don't want Samsung at Worlds.
Why?
Why is that?
Because I want like
because he misses saying
no literally just for fun. I don't want them there. I'd rather have SKT Longzhu KT.
Oh
more
god,
sparks will fly.
Oh,
more sparks will fly.
Maybe we can talk about KT after, but I think one thing I really want to talk about with you guys is I don't think Longzhu will do that well in playoff setting.
Okay,
well,
let's
playoff
skip
setting. You mean the final?
Yeah. Let's just skip to that. Let's go straight to that because that's actually a topic which has been obviously a key one in the past with Rox Tigers, which is that the bad part, if you're a team that doesn't have tons and tons of experience of playoff series, so this is something obviously Peanut famously used to have an issue with, is if you do too well in the regular season, you skip all the playoffs and you just play in the final. And that sounds like a good thing, but it isn't, because if think about the old OGN tournaments, yeah, everyone has to play the round of 8. Everyone has to play the semi-finals, you know. By the time you get to the final, you know what that guy's like, that he's battle-tested, he's got a bit of,
right.
You know, well, you look at some of the names on Longzhu, some of them have no experience. Never mind.
BDD, Cuds, and Con they have very, very, very little playoff experience, and they're very reliant on their bot lane in terms of experience and veterancy. And I think like them just going straight to finals, and they'll become super rookies by winning the finals, or like they'll fall where they're placed. And I think the odds are more leaning towards like them not being super rookies and like them just being hot in the regular season.
Okay, so part of the problem obviously is that they've got so many people that are inexperienced. Who would be your number one sort of like who's the guy where they're the fault line? They're the one that might break and that might be the problem. Who would you pick? Who would you pick out of them?
So no, it's not even like what is it? Cuds being like a bad player or anything, but it's just so much easier for you to fuck up in jungle than in lane, in my opinion. Especially on like an important stage, because if you go against something like you don't expect, or that might be that might be a little bit unorthodox.
Well, I mean, an obvious example would be, let's say the opponent actually sort of baits you into a meta pick that you just don't play, you know, and then you feel pressured, like, oh, that's really strong right now, I have to pick it, and then that you don't really want to be doing that the first time in the playoff finals.
I think that particular like playing something might be more of a con issue, but the Cuz issue for me is also tied to BDD, because I think BDD has been playing like insanely well. So also it's been kind of like a spring crown thing. So I think that Cuz hasn't actually had like a split as a competitive jungler yet, if that makes sense. So
he's just getting backpack. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's a fair assessment. And we saw some of the problems in the KT series because, like, yeah, we're going to go against Score, who's, like, really smart about knowing where the enemy jungler is going to be, and we're going to try the same shit we're doing against, like, the other junglers, and it's not going to go so well, so...
And also, what is it? For playoffs, it's a completely different game. It's people study your pathing so much more. Pathings are way more prepped. Like you can do for junglers especially. It's very common to do like really well in regular season and not do well. I've just seen it way too much with junglers.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Is there actually something specifically in Kaz and how he's played in the split that makes you think that, or is that just a general historical trend that's concerning you? Like, have you seen some kind of signs where there was some weaknesses there that might be exacerbated in the playoffs?
I like the last, like Cuz reminds me of Peanut a lot from Rock's days, and like that kind of style is very like susceptible to someone just matching you really well and being able to counterplay you. Who else has that style? Oh my god, it's who else has had that problem? Let me try to remember.
I think Haru kind of works.
Haru?
And Haru in spring with is a similar.
Okay.
analogy.
I guess Cuz is like sometimes a little bit more farm heavy than Haru, but it's just rookie junglers plus really good regular split into playoff has been a recipe for disaster for a lot of teams.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
For them to lose, obviously there's two sides to the equation. Would the same problems exist for them against anyone they could play in the final? Or would it need to be a specific team you think that would put them under the most pressure?
KT definitely. Well prepped SKT definitely. And Samsung with ambition also. Like all three of those teams can potentially have that effect on Cuds. And also just like the final setting for Cuds. Like playing in the finals for his first time ever. Like going from never playing on LCK to going to final straight. Same for Con, same for not so much same for BDD because he has experience, a little bit more experience than the other two. But these are just the weight of the crown is a lot.
I also think with Khan, something I've noticed is that he has a tendency to, I think, sometimes TP too early when they're trying to do a 1-4 setup or something like this. So I think that like he tries to overflank, and sometimes his angle of approach is weird in high pressure situations. So I think in a playoff final that might be exacerbated. So
Okay. Regardless of how they actually decide it in LCK, should BDD be the MVP of the split?
He's been a statistical monster, so who else would get MVP? No one from SKT, probably no one from Samsung.
he shared the points with Kuro, but yeah.
It makes way too much sense to just give it to him. I can't think of anyone else where I'd be like, this player was a standout.
I mean, Khan was the standout. I mean, he came in against Mar and Smeb and everyone else, and he lit everyone up against everyone's expectations. I was the only person talking about Khan in December. Like, but like the guy is a fucking.
Them Jarvan Jace though.
I mean, he had a lot of
he's a
problems in LSPL, but we'll see. I think that a lot of it.
I appreciate you, mate.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's
good job, but
I think he's probably the like.
Come on, you ready to say some ridiculous shit? He's probably the best top
Yeah,
player in the
I'm
whole
ready for
world.
this.
Yeah, he
Come
probably
on.
is.
There we go.
Like,
He's probably the best
in
what?
terms,
Top player in the world.
mechanical.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
mechanical.
So yes, mechanical.
Okay.
But I don't know why that statement like gets scoffed at or something. Like there is a clear difference between how a player controls the avatar and the champion. I said this about Crowned at Worlds, and people wanted to say no. Like you don't just determine someone by their damage per minute, kill participation, and everything. If someone can clearly control
team factors play into that, sure.
team factors and like other stuff that can indirectly affect it. But watching how someone controls the fucking champion, he's better than Smeb, he's better than Marn. Like I don't give a shit if you can't see that is the reality of the situation. If you watch him control his champion, what he can do, the limits he can push.
I guess like I'm not even debating.
I feel like he's super impressive.
That
like,
argument, but
for a
like,
standout player.
But I do think that the whole picture is where Khan is faulted a little bit, and I think that overall, like I've been impressed with Khan, yeah, for sure, especially someone who watched him a lot in LSPL, and
I didn't watch him in China.
So I was really impressed by how much he changed and how much better he seems to have been playing in LCK. So I think that, like from that perspective, yeah, he's really impressive. But I think Longzhu get more out of BDD, if that makes sense.
I would still give it to VDD. Mayo.
No, they're both close, but I feel like he's an honorable mention. Like we said, like we can't think of someone else to mention, but I feel like Khan should be mentioned.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Any of the Samsung players stand out to you guys? I think that would be like the last team I would consider.
Maybe Ambition. I mean, Rulers had a good split, but maybe.
So if no player on Samsung like is really like a standout MVP candidate, and you know at one point they were top of the league and they've still finished very well, and they're already on point to have a decent playoff finish. Does that mean as an overall team, are they a stronger team than some of the other teams that are in the playoffs then? I mean, there's no standout individual, right? So either they're all just very good, or the team itself is just a lot stronger than the individual.
They're all like very good in their roles. I wouldn't say I can't name a player that would be best in their role. Maybe Cube.
I
That's
feel like
still
they're-
kind of iffy. They're all like
the big
really,
question-
really good and really good teamwork.
Yeah, the big question mark is like basically some of the metrics that we're using to determine KT, Longzhu, and SKT is how volatile are they going to be.
Yeah.
Whereas Samsung has shown a constant trend almost of consistency and stability. And so when SKT collide with them, what SKT is showing up, when they go up against KT, can KT keep their mental together? How is Pawn going to perform in the series?
Yes.
And then when they go up against Longzhu, Samsung are stable. They're solid. They're like a rock. They don't have the best performance, but like they don't need to if Longzhu shits the bed. You know, if Longzhu loses the game, Samsung doesn't have to win it. So I feel like they have that going for them against in the big four.
I mean,
And-
the obvious easy narrative, right, is that the Samsung is the team where you have to, like, they will be at their level no matter what, and you must go above it to beat them. KT is the team where, okay, on paper, they could win the whole LCK, but they're almost playing against themselves in the fact that, especially if it's SK Telecom, they might just shit the bed completely. And then
Yeah,
Longzhu
their mid lane
is-
are kind of trolls time to time.
And then again, it's the same storyline for Longzhu, which is like they're rookies. But that's the aspect I want to push back on, though, is that on the one hand, we're saying, they've got these three people who are, I mean, IBD's not really a rookie, but in a way he is. Like, he's never been on an elite team before. So they've kind of got three people who, any of them potentially could break in like a finals scenario. But even with that said, the fact that two of the three people we're talking about were potential split MVPs that we're talking about now, and then the bot lane obviously is fantastic. Couldn't they also just blow everyone away and just win the whole LCK easily?
Actually,
Yeah,
yeah,
they-
I would even consider giving it to Prey, like the MVP. I think Prey's, I don't know why, like I forgot about Prey, but like Prey's been playing really well as well.
Thorin, they could, but they also could not. Like, it's just they're rookies going into playoffs. Like, none of the data
Listen,
we have.
I know that no rookies except those
mean-
that are playing under coma are allowed to be really good and just
For-
win anyway.
for
I mean,
me,
like, sorry, Loco. I didn't want to break it to you like this.
For
mate,
me,
but-
it's
I-
not even less like the rookie factor though, because it's
Okay.
not just the rookie factor. It's like in Longzhu's recent games, you can see like some warning signs about stuff that they aren't necessarily as polished on, like the jungle control with mid. Like the way that they do that is not as polished as I think either Samsung, SKT, or KT. So, or like, and then I think that Khan has been really mechanically good, but he's almost trapped by kind of a type of style that KT, for example, abused with. They're really weird and somewhat questionable. Yeah, like Prey actually played kind of weird that game. Actually, he had a. Never mind. It's not important. The point is that like in that game, even though KT had this like really low damage comp, they were able to bait Khan into some of these fights that he probably shouldn't have taken, and bait that team into fights that they probably shouldn't have taken. So I think that there are still warning signs for Longzhu, even if you just ignore the fact that there are a bunch of untested players. And technically, Cuz is the only rookie. So.
It's a really easy bet to make, or like a really easy assumption to have that they'll do well, but there's a lot of warning signs, as Kelsey said, and like just previously and like historically for League of Legends, like there's been so many teams that have been very hot early, hot with rookies, and fell down. I feel like the
Yes.
odds are against them.
Well, I mean, actually, in general, that is overwhelmingly the trend in League of Legends, is that any team that wasn't super good, but who starts the split super strong, always, like, inevitably by the last 2 weeks, just falls off a cliff and then doesn't live up to the potential. It's only when you obviously, like, the new team, though. If you're really good, you can obviously bounce back, but that does seem to be a ridiculous trend. Then again, though, they also do literally change the video game as you're playing and practicing it each week, so that doesn't really
Yeah.
help, So far, the team we have skipped, and we'll go back to now, is KT Rolster.
Uh-huh.
So obviously, Loco, my prescience, I was a little bit off, right? I was saying by the end of the spring split they'd be better than SK Telecom, but like my ESP, it's not always fine tuned, Loco. I can just see into the future. So obviously now they are better than SKT. Obviously not when you play them, but the secret is just not to play them. So just don't worry about that. Samsung will take care of them for you.
You shit on me for saying Wolf is really good. I didn't say he was the best support in the world, but you're like, oh my god, Wolf is so garbage. Like SKT.
I don't know about that. You basically did say that he was the best support, and you even said that he's better than Mata on the logic that since Coma could have had Mata but didn't take Mata.
I said he was. I said he was better for SKT than Mata was. That was my logic.
At the moment, though, is he though? So he isn't at the moment.
I'm sure I will give you for the moment. Overall thoughts on KT.
Yes.
I always feel like KT is kind of a they're getting pulled two ways kind of team. The Deft and Smep thing that I always talk about. How both carries need gold. It's been a lot better this split, to be honest. Way more.
Hasn't it been a bit more shifted just towards the bot lane this split?
What's up?
Hasn't it been a bit more shifted towards the Deft end of the equation there?
I know. When you have Deft, it's hard not to.
Yeah. I think, and it's also a little bit better for when you can play Maokai top and things like that.
Yeah, so Smep made the ultimate sacrifice. And also, traditionally, teams built like this, it's really, really hard to succeed in Korea. Teams that are more bottom-oriented, I feel like Korea has been traditionally, it's better to succeed with top laners. So meta's kind of against them regarding top laners being carries and them liking to play towards bot side. But of course, Smec could always carry. They're just not stable, and they're so hard to guess because of Smep, because of Pawn, also because of Mata. And also sometimes they pick Skarner. Score is the only real solid player they have. Score is the only player that they have that I know what I'm gonna get from Yeah, he's the only player I feel confident knowing. Sure. Okay, if they have Score, they're gonna get this out of Score. Every other player they have, I feel okay, holy shit, what the fuck is gonna happen?
I think the it's weird because I feel in the Longzhu and the SKT series, Longzhu and SKT both drafted better than KT, but KT fell into the Kalista trap a lot versus Alistar from SKT, and in the Longzhu series, they really, really like the Galio mid, but they'll pick it with Ashe and Kalista, which is a little weird.
Low damage. Yeah, I mean they like it because they can just make the side lane plays a lot easier. When they have Galio Ashe, it's very easy to the bottom play. Galio Kalista, it's really easy to make the bottom play. But when you falter or when your Kalista or Ashe doesn't get ahead, it's you fall into damage problems.
Yeah.
Now that we've seen almost two splits of this KT lineup, what do you actually think? Right, obviously the big problem with their lineup is they were literally a super team. They were players who had all been stars in other teams and in the past and very good players. They're one of the few instances of actually a real super team in League of Legends, but they didn't really live up to that in the spring. The actual team that came onto the Rift of 5 players looked nothing like a super team. So how do they weigh up in that respect now? How good actually are they as a team and individually at the moment, do you think?
The reason super teams never work in League of Legends is because there's limited amount of gold, and it's the same everywhere else. You go from having superstar players, and some of them have to end up being more role players.
The problem there obviously is I feel that's where maybe KT actually as a concept didn't work early on, is that they had the super team that really was almost just the fans voting in the fucking players. Whereas if you want to make a super team, the only one I would this is going to be very contentious, but for me a super team, if you were trying to make one, would be what H2K had in season 6, where it's you have players who were all very good at their role, but there's actually a logic as to how they could balance out against each other. So you have someone like Otto Amne who will be a low econ top and still maybe be the best top. The problem with the KT example is, you've got a player like Smeb was the superstar player and never had to worry about the mid doing anything. Then you had Deft, every single team he's in, plays are on the bot. These things can't all exist at once, right? And so how has KT figured that puzzle out? Have they?
Smeb took the knee, Pong got better, and they play I actually think it's really fucking bad that they do this, but whenever they start doing badly, especially for mid, they just shove all the resources into Pawn. As a coach, I'm not sure how I would have handled the situation differently, but it's just so fucking odd. Pawn has a bad game. It's win game 1, lose game 2, shove all the resources into Pawn in game 3, and then lose game 3 because Pawn misperforms. Go ahead, Kelsey.
Part of it is also just he plays a lot of high wave clear champs, and then so he ends up catching a lot of the gold in games where they screw up. So I think that that's also a case. I would say that it's hard to. I think about it less as a gold thing, as more as like they're going to play super aggro in the lane, and they don't really know how to play otherwise. So even though Smeb is playing like some of these more tanks and stuff like this, he's still going to play similarly, and you can make it work as long as you trade sides effectively. Like if Smeb is playing super aggressive and he pulls the enemy jungler, then bot has to also be doing something right.
You have to be really intelligent, and it's a lot harder to practice that way.
Yeah, it's really hard, but I think that's kind of what they've done for themselves, is they've made their lives hard, and sometimes it works.
What's the payoff? Like their payoff is actually not that great comparatively. Like their payoff should have been, okay, if you do all these things correctly, like we're a super team and we're gonna fucking take over LCK. Even when things work out, like they're a good top tier team, but it doesn't like blow every team out of the water.
I don't even necessarily think their problem is the early part, right? Because I feel like they consistently can actually balance that correctly early on. It's just that later on they get like kind of almost greedy, and they have weird backs where they think that they can get like an extra objective, right? And
they always
try that's where they get in trouble.
I also think they do. I see them play both sides a lot later on in the game, instead of being more, oh, we're gonna do Baron, or like we're gonna do Baron, you split push slow, or like you split push fast, and we're gonna start slowly getting Baron. Like they do both things really fast, and then it fucks up on either like one part or both parts.
Okay, LS, I am someone who doesn't understand how the avatars are used in the game, or how people use the fucking champion in the game. So as someone who's resident expert in this area, has it at all shaken your faith that a lot of these players who, you know, were once upon a time like, you know, all world players just don't look that good in KT? Like who actually kind of lives up to the billing still, do you think?
Score. I mean, we said that earlier, that Score's still by far the most consistent. And he's the one that you can almost always expect stuff out of. Like, I don't think he'll ever have as high of a high as like a Peanut or something, but he'll never sink as low. Like, he'll always hover around a really high number, like on a grading system 1 through 10. And he's just going to be completely solid. Like, KT, let's say they make it to the finals. I feel like the finals is like the meta included, but it is literally a battle of like the first 2 games or something, just for the team's mentals. Because KT has already shown like mental problems. There's been stories leaked about KT's mental problems. Not like that they're mental, but you know what I'm saying. Like
psychological issues.
Right. Yeah. Their ability to hold it together in the series. And then KT is like, how do I describe this without sounding weird? They have.
Has that ever been a concern for you in the past?
Yeah, right. They have the worst late game macro play with insane team fighting that covers it.
Okay, so here's a question for you then. So people to this day still cite Mata as this amazing shot caller. Is he just a great shot caller in team fights because he knows all the cooldowns and micro speed? How does that not pass over to any of the macro elements, do you think?
I remember having a convo with the MVP coach, and I just used to say to him, like, KT is just line gen, like laning phase. Like, and he like laughed because all I was saying is all KT can do is get leads and try to shove it down your throat. I think their macro is fucking atrocious. Yeah.
That's such an easy question to answer. KT has too many cooks problem. When Mata was really good, it was Mata being really, really vocal, and then Dandy also played a part in it, but Dandy wasn't like a super fucking vocal player. He's more of like, he talked and he knew his role, and Mata got to make a lot of decisions. On KT, there's players that are so used to making their own choices and that are so used to just being played around. Deft, while he's not like a vocal player, he's so used to being played around him and the shot calling just being around Deft. Mata, more catch based, more vision denial based. Smeb, more split push based. And Pawn is like just Pawn. I'm not going to act like I know too much about him, but there's like very different philosophies. Yeah. Like within those players, so Mata can't just have his way. So like I feel like that's where a lot of their disagreements come from. And even when you read their interviews, they say stuff like, yeah, we've been trying different type of shot calling. At first, like I wanted to be just really vocal by myself, but we started incorporating other people's ideas. Like to me, what it sounds like is they have shot calling problems and they have decisiveness problems and consensus problems, like just being all in on, hey, this is the style we're going to play. This is the person that's going to make decisions.
I think that Mata's teams have always been really, really similar to this, though. Like, even if you go back to Samsung Ozone, Samsung White, like, it was really similar to this, like, except they had almost a more methodical approach to the way they did the laning phase, where they would do the gank top, and then bot could go super aggro because you had the TP advantage, but it was, like, really, really laning phase based. And then sometimes they would just be stupidly ahead, and then they would get baited into bad team fights and they would lose. And this was still like a Samsung Ozone, Samsung White thing. RNG, very similar as well. Royal Never Give Up when he was in China. And they're actually playing a lot like KT now. When you watch Royal Never Give Up games, they still have like those echoes. So I feel like this is a really big Mata influence, and this is a really big Mata thing.
I kind of disagree regarding Samsung White. I'll give you the RNG one because, to be honest, I don't know. I'm not too familiar. For Samsung White, like I felt like they had a very, very well-defined style of jungle and support playing together after the first back with Pink Wars and denying the vision properly and playing. They had a pattern, they had a system, and they always did the same thing. And it felt like they had it down, and like everyone knew what their role was.
I think that the jungle support thing is still pretty consistent in KT. Like, I think that the way that the jungle plays, and in terms of like score, is still, when you think about the correct path or the correct decision for jungle, like he'll do that, and it's kind of predictable, but you can't really contest it because he'll have the right vision set up for it and everything is in place. So I still think that that's like sort of true. I think it's less aggressive than Dandy was. But like if you go back and you watch the Samsung White games, like sometimes they did overward even, or sometimes like compared to our understanding of the game now, and it looks a lot like it was really good then because people were not playing it, but I think it's very similar to the way KT and RNG approach the game, and when you see them being like super far ahead. So I don't know, for me it feels really similar, because I think even then I remember the narrative was a lot like, okay, Samsung White are the exception team where you have like all of these star players and they just like kind of overpower you. They're like the exception that proves the rule that you can't have a team like that, right?
And
so
then does their shot calling feel archaic? Like, does it feel old school? Like they didn't evolve with it? Or does it feel more like a disarray?
Is it the same as a few years ago and they just think that'll work?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what it is, but I think that like Mata almost spent time, he went from there and he went to China and he was teaching like most of his teams how to play the game. And so I can see how like him being there and him like having to teach everyone would make it difficult for him to like develop in the way that he felt like he needed to in order to learn more about the game. Maybe I'm not like, this is obviously full speculation, sure, but I do know that he, like everyone in the RNG house, if you talk to them, will say that Mata taught me how to play the game. I didn't know that you did this, and this. And so I think that maybe like him being the smartest person there stunted him a little bit, but it just feels like they're not exactly the same, but they had very similar principles to like laning phase is really important. And this is something Mata believes, and I've seen interviews with him, is that like you overpower in the lane and then it makes it easier to play the late game, except they haven't been able to figure that out really.
Sure.
So.
See, the problem is I actually kind of, I have always thought that Loco's point there about the too many cooks angle, again, that's another reason why, like, even though this is a super team on paper, it's not like a super team like, right, you've got the best top laner, plus this would be like the perfect jungler to go with him, you know? That part doesn't make sense, actually, because if you think of the past teams they were on, like, obviously Mata was in full control of all of his teams for the last few years, and kind of like unquestioned, you know, and people even wanted him to have full control. Then you look at Smeb, in his teams, he was always like by far the best player in the lane. So the whole team was about like, right, let me do my stuff in the lane. And then for me, when he added Peanut, that was just like, you already had like the strongest guy in a 1v1, just like taking steroids, basically. It's like, right, inject this Peanut steroids into me. Now I win even harder in the lane. And then, you know, the rest of them, the bot lane, which is now in Longzhu, obviously, just waits until the late game anyway, which is where they shine. Meanwhile, Score, that's not even like a scenario where I'm going to describe that, you know, he's doing some great shot calling. Score in KT was just like Jesus going around touching a bunch of different lepers, and they just come back to life for a day, and then he has to run back to another leper and touch them, like, oh, please help me, Jesus. And then he gives them some life, and then they start withering away again. And he just has to, it's like spinning, you know, a magician with spinning plates. He just has to keep as many as he can going at once. And if he keeps 3 lepers alive by the end of the game, he wins. But if he only keeps 2 and they pick off the other ones, then they're dead, everyone. And the problem is, at the moment, they've got Napoleon commanding the whole armies, you know. They've got the best soldier who's trying to be like, well, let me do my thing, you know. And then they've got Jesus like, no one needs help. What? Where's all the lepers? So basically, it's narratively, it's a train wreck, you know. So it doesn't work. You can't put Jesus with Napoleon and the best soldier. That's a bad look. See, I've got my own model for League of Legends, Loco. I don't really get into the meta and all that, you know. I just kind of make shit up as I go along, you know.
Meanwhile, Deft is somewhere in there crying when things go wrong.
Yeah. He just
Why
waits
won't
till
no
the
one
end of
play
the
to
game.
me?
No, Deft. What's funny is Deft should just be like fucking Dyrus. He is just like, when do I get to play League of Legends? They were like, hey, shut the fuck up. You get to play at 41 minutes and not a moment too soon. And they say, well, will this game get... And he's, you know, there's so many games at like 38 minutes. He's like, will I get to the 41 minutes? Oh, no, they've lost the game. Fuck shit.
It's kind of odd,
lost me the whole game.
But I don't think Def will ever find the level of success. I think like we've seen the best of Deft in Korea. I actually think he's better suited for other regions where you can have like one person like overpower teams a lot and you can build around a bot lane. But I feel like it's so hard to do that in Korea. It's not that he's a bad player, but just stylistically, he'd be better off as an import than a Korean player. Just my 2 cents.
So what about this then?
I also think EDG kind of ruined him. I mean, like he got whatever he wanted. In terms of like the game setup, and Clear Love was always bought at level 6 and everything else, so I don't know.
In a way, didn't Mata get ruined the same way, like we were talking about? He got to just play his style and it worked. Like I think that's actually like that's one of the worst things for imports, like when you play a bad style and it works and then you feel like you're doing something right and just keep doing it over and over again.
To an extent, sure. I do think that RNG had serious issues, but so it didn't necessarily work the entire time, especially when it became really, really bot focused. So it's almost like Mata had this tendency to play bot focused, and then so did Deft. So it just kind of compounded in that style sense as well.
I actually think like it's one of the huge problems of like Korean imports going over, because in Korea, like even in solo queue, when you do the wrong thing, people will punish you. Like if you play the matchup the wrong way, like over course of time, like people will punish you over and over again. And definitely in professional play, if you play a certain way that's really punishable or that isn't like the correct or the good way of playing, you'll get punished. So you learn by playing a lot and getting punished. And like when you do a bad thing, you get a negative response to it. But in NA, like you can play a certain way in solo queue, and even when it's bad, like you keep winning over and over again. And also in like NA, like as an LCS, like infamously TSM does really well in NA and they do bad internationally because they do one thing over and over again, and then you don't get a negative response to it, so you feel like you're doing something right. And so whenever these imports go to other regions and they do really well, and then they feel like, oh, I'm doing something right, like I'm not getting a negative response, so I'm just doing right and I'm winning. And then they come back to Korea and then they're like, what the fuck just happened? Like I've been winning and winning, like I've been getting better. Because in Korea, the only way to like win is to constantly get better, like and not get the negative like response.
And this isn't a personal thing or anything with the TSM stuff, but no.
I mean, that was going to be my joke when he said, you know, TSM do well in NA and go international. It's like, well, yeah, they had a user coach, so.
No, but I think it's true, but compounded on that, it's like obviously in LPL you also have Korean solo queues, so that obviously wasn't your point though. Your point was more like just the mental stuff, because I think especially in LPL and to an extent in a bunch of other regions, when Korean players are imported, they almost are imported as coaches, right? It's like, teach us how to play the game, right? And so they become like God almost of the team, and they get their way. If they don't like a player, the player gets kicked. All this sort of thing happens while they're in China, and then so they just actually believe in some way that what they're doing works and that they shouldn't be questioned, and then they go back, and it's even harder to kind of change them in that sense as well.
But there is, I notice again, you wouldn't believe he existed because he's never been mentioned yet, but there is actually a guy who's a coach for KT Rolster. So where's this coach in this whole equation? What, does he just sit back and go, you guys decide it amongst yourself?
Dardoch and Easyhoon are the two coaches for KT. I think they added one more. He was the old Africa coach. I forgot his name.
Easyhoon is, do you mean who?
No, Easyhoon, like the head coach. Easyhoon 감독님.
Easyhoon. Okay.
Okay. And then there's Dardoch. He's like been with KT like since forever, since like score days.
Okay.
And then there's like one more like that came over from Africa. To be honest, like I feel like that team is extremely hard to coach, and you'd be more of a mental coach and more of like an older brother figure than like coaching them strategy. Like the players they have are like notoriously stubborn. I don't think their coaches are bad. I just think their players are really good and stubborn.
How do they get away with that in Korea then? Because remember, the narrative everyone hammers to death in Korea is the notion that, you're not allowed to do that and you have to respect the coach and do what he says. And if he says run through a brick wall, you have to say, yes, sir, how many times? Why does this team get away with it?
With coaching Challenger and also talking to other coaches and learning more about the sport world, I feel like League is really close to NBA. It's way closer to NBA than NFL. And it's a lot about managing star players and running a system that's correct for the players you have.
Sure. I mean, that makes sense in as much as in the NBA there are 5 players and one player can have the ball all the time, whereas in the NFL, I'm thinking how many players there are, you play different teams on different sides. So, okay, that makes sense to a degree. So do you think other teams are like that? Is it just KT who, because they have the big names, kind of let them run riot? Do you think actually in teams like SKT is obviously in theory the exception, do the other teams kind of play up to their star player and let them kind of have a lot of say in it, do you think?
I think a lot of teams have when you put together a team, it's actually like really apparent in like the first few months how this team will play out, and like maybe they'll adapt, maybe they won't adapt. Like it's so hard to get players to adapt. But it's very clear like from the get-go what kind of players you have, like what kind of strengths you have, and what you're gonna do with it. Like you can bang your head against the wall and try to stuff a square peg into a circle hole, but it's like you're not gonna get ideal results. Like you have to work with the players you have, the strengths you have, and just go from there. Like an example would be like on what's a team like that? Like when you see what's a good example of like Immortals, like the original Immortal roster, Huni, Reignover, Turtle, Adrian roster, like very clear what side they're gonna play to, very clear how they're gonna do it, and they did the best with that. And they could have improved on it more, but like I think more league teams are like that than like coaching is having like style of I'm this kind of coach and I'm gonna coach my team this way, and we're gonna be this kind of team. It's more of you have your players, and then you do the best with the players you have.
It starts with the personnel, and you engineer out of that the style, as opposed to the coach say, "This is my philosophy, and we play this way."
Yeah, it's more Oklahoma Thunders than Spurs.
I like the way are you trying to take? Since I've been gone as Loco, just the guy who just rams spots references in every single thing. Okay. It's okay, LS. I haven't let him go into the anime world yet, mate. That's still your domain. So, okay. Here's the question then. You made it sound like the macro of KT sounds like the worst out of the teams that have a chance to go to the finals. So,
if KT
if
makes finals,
yes,
they are the worst Korean macro team to ever make a final. Like relative to the era.
Arguably, Longzhu kind of is too.
KT Arrows. I thought they had really bad macro.
I think Longzhu and KT are actually really
What's up?
Really similar.
Relative to the era.
Sure. I think KT and Longzhu are actually really similar macro-wise in terms of how they play early. Like I think Longzhu's late macro is a little bit better, but KT has more consistency in team fights and better early macro.
Right. Yeah, they're more consistent. Sure. Go.
Here's the thing about Longzhu macro. Who's gonna say no to whatever Prey or Gorilla says? Like Prey and Gorilla makes a call or talks about like in review, hey, this is how we're gonna play out this game. Hey, this is what we need to do in this kind of situation. Hey, we should split push this way. Hey, we should bear and control this way. Who the fuck is gonna say no on that team? But on KT, I can think of many instances where it'd be like Smep thinks it should be played this way. Mata thinks it should be played this way. It's just like I actually think that's like one of the huge benefits of Korean culture, like how much they value experience and age. So even when you're not doing something that's the most ideal, like 5 people are doing at least one thing. Maybe begrudgingly, but you are doing one thing. I feel good knowing that it would be like in a decisive series
I would feel more confident for Prey and Gorilla to be level-headed than KT if it goes multiple games. Because there's going to be too many personalities that I think collide. And I think Prey and Gorilla, if they're calling things or if they're trying to remain calm and stable and control the team, that's probably more of a surety than KT.
I would still go KT just because I feel like overall when it gets to, we've seen both sides when it gets to the super late game team fights and then when KT overpower and lane, and I think in both cases, like when it comes down to those two scenarios, KT had the advantage. I think Longzhu, if KT don't snowball super hard early and then Longzhu can make good side trades or do a good 1-4 mid game, then that's probably how they win. But I think that like it'll probably go to one end of the game or the other, and then KT will win.
So obviously we've already brought up the narrative, which clearly still exists based on the game we saw this week, which was the one that last week rather, where if SK Telecom plays KT, that seems to be the one that really brings forth the demons of the past that still haunt them. But there's a world in which SK Telecom never plays against KT. Maybe Samsung plays KT. So if KT have appalling macro, isn't Samsung sort of a team almost ideally suited stylistically to just beat them in a best of 5?
Yeah, I actually think Singapore has a really good chances, but
Emily Rand made a nice article called Rock, Paper, Scissors, but where she actually thinks that KT beat Samsung. And I think that because of the way that Samsung have been playing and have been struggling a little bit more with early, they are more susceptible to just like KT winning out that way than I think SKT are. And so I think that that's a factor to consider as well. So, but yeah, I mean, it's really weird because the meta should favor more Samsung, but KT and even SKT, actually especially SKT weirdly enough, are defaulting to more of these super hard laning comps. So we'll see. I think that there are openings, like, again, Korea's looking much more for these fast tempo openings, like the strong junglers and stuff like this. So.
I like the rocks, paper, scissors thing. I like that a lot. And then Longzhu's the wild card, but yeah.
Well, I mean, she could have just gone even more next level and made it rocks, paper, scissors, because there's all these rocks players that play for all the teams. Paper, that's obviously KT and SKT. They just pay for all their players. And then scissors has got to be like Longzhu, because it's got the dual threat of Khan and BDD like slicing you up, So, but then again, that's just, not everyone's on my level of pun game. So,
yeah,
we've all got our specialties, LS. So, shall we talk about the North American LCS? Ooh. I know a lot of people in this conversation aren't really that interested in it, I mean,
really?
It's got no future, who cares about the LCS in NA, who wants to be in the LCS? No one. So
I think NA, I love NA LCS.
Obviously you do. It was actually sarcasm, believe it or not, Loco.
I mean, you're trying to get in, of course you do.
I actually think LCS is so much more entertaining than what is LCK. On an entertainment level, LCS is way superior.
Wait a minute.
As someone that speaks
Korean...
Korean...
You mean EU LCS, right? Yeah, of course you do.
As someone that speaks Korean, it's so much easier for me to be invested into NA players than Korean players.
Right, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You mean in spite of the fact you speak Korean, it's easier to be invested in an NA player? Because that doesn't make any sense, by the way. Like, as someone who speaks Korean really well, I love English.
Despite up being, what is it?
Yes.
Going on both in Ven and Reddit.
You prefer American League of Legends. Why though?
More entertaining. The storylines are better. The storylines are more just raw, and they're just there. And like the Twitter drama afterward, like the people shit talking, the Reddit threads, the Twitch memes, like it's just LCK doesn't feel the same. I don't get the same kind of joy watching LCK. Like,
you are a ridiculous person, you know that, because on the one hand, right, you are
you got
fully
the Sopranos
Korean.
and the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, exactly. You are tailor made to be like LS to be.
You are the biggest
Korean
banana on the planet.
You are tailor made to be the Korean supremacist, and then an opinion that must exist to be logically consistent with that was like, the best League of Legends, the highest level, the best players, the best macro, the best coaching.
The best the best
Yes.
technically well-played League of Legends is
Yes.
not always the most entertaining.
But do you notice that most people who think that way then go, I don't like to watch garbage games where people don't know what they're doing and everyone just cheers for players they like? Like, most people don't have those two sides to the equation, Loco. So what I don't understand about this part is, if LCK teams played the way some of those NALCS teams did, you would tear them apart and be like, that's fucking terrible. How
I
can
guess
you play that way?
I guess I watch both leagues for different reasons. Like, I mean,
Okay.
LCS also has been really entertaining because the last few weeks it determines who we play. I mean, but like we were watching like the Envious game and the like Seraph's dying a lot, and then like we had like a bet amongst like the players and the coaching staff, like how many times is Seraph gonna
Wait a
die
minute,
this game?
it's entertaining to you how much Seraph dies in a game.
Alright,
I'm not sure we're watching the same game here. What's going on here?
just
You're
the
playing like drinking
the
games
product
and
of
shit.
NALCS is much more enjoyable and entertaining.
Okay.
Just the product like of it in whole, like the Twitch memes, the Reddit, the Twitter, like everything combined, like the product of it is just so much more entertaining for me.
There's a little bit of bias embedded in that, right? Because you're watching with your players and they're enjoying it for the reasons that they're enjoying it. You're invested in it because you're on the team as well. So I think it's kind of hard to separate that from, like, for example, I get really into EULCS, which probably makes me the weirdest person in this conversation, but it's like because right now, for example, I'm in Berlin and I'm able to talk to like the analysts and the coaches like during or after the games, and then like watch the players and interview the players and like meme them for really weird lane swaps. And I don't know, it's like it's a similar thing, right? It's just like the feeling of investment, of belonging, or just like understanding what's going on. And I think that like LCK has some really great storylines, and some of their players you can meme ridiculously, like how many times does Pawn die in a game? Obviously that's not as big of a problem right now, but there was definitely stuff like that going on earlier.
Maybe I do have a bias. I'll say this. I love Longzhu matches, and I am invested into Longzhu matches. They're an exciting team, and
Yeah, not that into SKT anymore for some reason. He's just gone off a little bit, guys. You know, they're just not as interesting this season. I don't know what it is. I mean, you know, now that they don't live on Mount Olympus anymore, and like Grace has mere mortals, you know, with everything perfect, and Coma doesn't just literally transmit like pure fucking cosmic consciousness in Loco's brain through League of Legends and his avatars that he controls on the Rift LS. See, so
even
the avatars.
even when SKT was the better team, Longzhu was more entertaining due to how they played. Their players are very exciting. BDD is really exciting. Khan is really exciting.
I mean,
Okay, so-
you're like this, but then you're like KT are garbage and they're a mess. So I don't know. I think KT's really fun to watch too. So
KT's like sad to watch a lot of times.
NALCS is like watching Survivor meets Bachelorette. Like, I don't even know where the fuck. It's entertaining, but I don't know how, like.
How much substance?
Yeah, like it literally is like one of those MTV reality TV series at a certain point. You know, like I too like to enjoy how the other side lives sometimes.
And you get to watch streams, you get to watch CSM Legends,
That's
or like
true.
whenever people have shows. Like, it's so much easier to be invested into NALCS than any other region.
I think I don't know, if you speak
I think
Chinese and you follow China, there's a lot of stuff like that too. Like they do marketing really well.
I will say I've never like been that much invested into LPL or don't follow it as much. So maybe they do have like a lot of good content around it too.
See, that's the problem, Loco. The real problem with this, mate, is because in the early days of League of Legends, you already had your into the American scene. You knew the TSM guys and the CLG guys, and you obviously speak English anyway. Your problem is you were just too early in Korean League of Legends because, you know, you'd already been like completely shit-canned out of Korea by the time that like LPL started buying players. So I feel like if you could have just survived like a year longer, you would have gone for that dirty money to China, and then you would have, in fact, you'd be our conduit. You'd tell us all the stuff that's going on over there. You'd be playing in like LSPL by now, of course, but it'd be you and like fucking Save would be on the same team right now.
I still really do want to accomplish something in NA outside of TSM because I feel like accomplishing something within TSM is like, it's kind of like not like in a way not much of an accomplishment due to like how successful they are. Like when you win on TSM, you can never really say, oh, like I'm the reason like this team won, or like I was like the first.
Yeah, because your brother Bjergsen did it all for you.
It's like having Mata do the coaching for you, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So after maybe I win something in LCS, that's not with TSM. Like I actually do want to go see China because I feel like the scene is much bigger in terms of like player base, and the scale seems a lot bigger. Maybe I'll go to Worlds this year.
The money, you mean? Or
No, the scale of like the amount of people and like how many people they're playing, how many people are watching, and also the money scale is pretty huge.
Plus,
I mean, I guess if you're Korean, you could probably convince a Chinese team that you are, worth a lot of money for sure, just by virtue of being Korean. It's
obviously he'll take Santorin with him as a package deal. That dream team can never be broken up.
It's like literally.
He'll have Santorin stream for money. That'll
ask
get
some teams like, why is he your coach? Oh, he's Korean, so you're fine. You're good.
Plus, by then, Loco will have made one final. He'll have completely saturated all the fangirls that are in the NALCS. So he'll just be like, right, I'm done with that. Like, there's no more. There's nothing more for me to. There's nothing more for me to learn and explore and discover in this.
I'm in a happy and fulfilling relationship. Thank you.
With yourself. Okay.
No. Go on. No need to go into my social life.
Oh,
we can go on.
You're the one bringing it up. Why are you bragging about it? Okay. Just stay lonely like the rest of us, right? So in the NALCS, is there actually a team that is world class? Is there someone that anyone here would stake and say, forget the drama that Loco loves and all the matchups and the streaming? Is there actually anyone who is world class in the NALCS?
It depends on your definition of world class. Like, if you mean like top 10, sure.
It's hard to say right now. I wouldn't. Okay. So the only teams that I think genuinely have potential for it are TSM, and CLG lost a lot of their potential with Dardoch. Maybe they gain something else, but they do lose a lot of potential with Dardoch. So I don't think CLG can quite be there. TSM, and the other one, obvious one, is C9, and then the third maybe is like Immortals. Like those are like the maybes. Those are like the possibilities. Like we can only really pick out of those three.
Okay.
I think
since obviously the playoffs actually is further away in LCS, like we've got time to do another show before then. Let's not focus too much on the matchups. I want to talk more like just about the teams and how they are at the moment and the splits. Sorry, what were you going to say, Kelsey?
I was just.
You've muted yourself somehow. I don't know how you've actually managed.
I think NA is the weirdest region to watch for the patch 7.14 because I feel like the teams that got it the best were mid-tier teams. And so it was like the top tier teams were doing a lot of weird stuff. So it was kind of interesting to watch NALCS the past few weeks.
Okay. So one thing that you touched on there, Loco, which I think has to be a key storyline, obviously, is that the reason why a lot of people were excited for CLG is that they have all these great components that are very consistent and work well. But you sort of injected a bit of firepower in there with Dardoch, and people were like, right, maybe now they could be, really challenging to win LCS. And in the games that were good early in the split, that kind of was working, right? It looked like, hey, they have married this kind of the two disparate elements together. So has the fact that he's gone just kind of killed that dead? Are they just going to be? Are they basically just a mid-tier team, but the record hasn't caught up?
I mean, they won with Jake ex-Mitty, and I know Omar is definitely worse than Jake. Just trying to think.
Yeah, but I feel like CLG was kind of a team where they weren't going anywhere with that roster. They had kind of like lost a lot of the motivation. And I think the split that Smithy has had with the Immortals would not be the split that he would have had on CLG. Like, I think.
No, never. Right. CLG is impressive because they shouldn't be as consistent as they are with the rosters that they've fielded, in my opinion. I feel like that's a testament to their ability as a unit.
I think CLG is so hard to judge because their players, they actually do improve. It's so strange to say, but players actually improve on that team. A lot of times, players stagnate on a lot of teams. He definitely improved. Darshan dipped, and then he started improving too. Is there improvements enough that the downgrade of Omar God is okay enough that they win LCS? I honestly don't think so. I think mid jungle is so important. Having a rookie jungler who also has champion pool problems, it'd be I'd be super fucking impressed if CLG won this split. I don't think they are a contender this split. If they win, then like holy fuck, Omar God and Tony just like got moded.
I don't think they would have won with Smithy is like kind of the key point though, and they probably either felt like they wouldn't win with Dardoch or that winning with Dardoch wasn't worth being terrible being like less good next split, I guess.
And they could easily just if they felt like they could win with Dardoch, then they would win with Dardoch and make a trade after that split. Like I don't think there's a team in the world like if they felt like they could win with the roster they have, but it would be like kind of shitty, they would choose not to win. I think that's like ridiculous to say.
Sure, but I think the point here is there was no good option. Like she means before when it hadn't completely gone to shit, that would have been the better lineup. But now they didn't have a choice. They had a choice of just don't win with him or don't win without him, and they were like, we'd rather not win without him, if you know what I mean. Like we'll take our chances. I think it's pretty obvious they didn't think, oh my god, he's a better player than Dardoch. Mm-hmm. So here's the question. How did Hui transform from an actual bot, like a very low-level AI that just plays Ori and Sol and doesn't ever attack, into an actual mid-lane player that kills people? How did this happen?
By being really humble, by being around good people, by having good coach, by, being really supported by his teammates and his team, and not been given up on. So I didn't think Hui was like a spectacular player. I always thought he had a good mindset. There's a lot of players in NA especially with good mindsets that just aren't good enough, and Hui just fit that mold really well. I mean, he's an import, his mindset is really good, but he wasn't that great. And CLG took the time, took the effort, and they developed him into a really great player. He speaks both English and Korean. Great teammate. I think we're going to see a lot more things like this with franchising, where people are going to look at things more long term than just like win now kind of thing.
Okay.
I actually think like players improving is like something that's like that should be something like normal, but it's actually really rare in League of Legends.
Okay, define it more then. What do you mean by improving? Improving in what way?
Improving.
They don't. Do you want to take it? Go.
Okay, improving in the aspects that they're bad at. Like actually genuinely
kill yourself, Loco. Come on, say it again.
Like so a lot of times like in NA, people will patch up like the weaknesses they have, and then they'll just like still try to go all in and be more. They won't try to become more well-rounded. They'll just try to get better at what they're good at. And Hui,
so people normally just focus on their strengths and keep pushing that way. They don't shore up their weaknesses, basically, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like something that Hui did. He had a very limited champion pool. He had a very like singular style. He would be bad in lane outside of these champions. He wouldn't be able to play these true carry champions. He gave up too much. And then instead of like being like, okay, I'm gonna play more Talia, I'm gonna play more Aurelion Sol, I'm gonna play more Echo. He's like, I'm gonna pick up these carry champions that are needed for the team to do well, and actually put time and invest into like being a carry, not just being a role player. And that's what he did, and like he's fucking good at it.
I also think right now, it's really hard to just like give up waves mid and have it be okay, especially with the types of mid champions that are being played, like the Ori and stuff like this, because then if you lose mid tower, it's kind of FF. But I think that the way that it's really hard to go from just the mindset of, I think I can play this kind of champion and I don't need to give up this wave to make sure the side lane can get ahead because I can get ahead, I think probably made a difference. Because a lot of players I think that are like that feel like they have to give up waves and they kind of have no choice because they're not going to do well on their own.
Here's one of the issues with NA, and it ties into what Loco's talking about the stagnation. I think I almost made a video on this last year. I think that pro players in general, in the West, except it's less so, or it's less common in Europe than in North America. Like what he was saying, they play to their strengths. I was talking with Freeze a few months ago about like when he came to Korea, anytime he's come to Korea, that he can't win with his strengths because his weaknesses will be so exposed and they'll just shit on him in solo queue and in practice or anything like that. Normally that's what Western players say when they come to Korea, is that all their weaknesses get exposed and their strengths aren't good enough because the Koreans are just as good or like near comparable. And so in NA, because North America is so top heavy, you have to win if you want to be getting exposure, if you want to get Twitter followers, if you want to be having your fucking name mentioned. I mean, I feel like a huge example of this is Mike Young, right? You go back 4 weeks in time, there is fucking 2 front page Reddit posts every goddamn day about Mike Young. And where the fuck has he been for the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Nowhere, right? So you're not going to tell me that his analytics aren't fucking dying in some sense. And if that keeps on, then his career dies. Like, who the fuck is Hakuo, right? Every time his name gets brought up, I'm like, that's an LCS player? Like, I don't even know that's a player. And I'm not like throwing shade at him, but I mean like the exposure and how much attention you get and how popular can you be ties into your fucking career and longevity in North America. So everyone's like, oh, I have to do what I'm best at, have to play my strengths, have to win, have to do this, have to do this, have to do this. They concern themselves so much with staying afloat and staying alive that they stop improving. And so then they go to international competition, they get their shit fucking shoved in, they come to Korean solo queue, they get their shit shoved in. They don't improve because they're so concerned with staying afloat, and it's like the king of idiots. I don't know.
I mean, if you always have to go hunting every day, then you're not going to be able to cultivate like plants and like cultivate a culture. You're just going to be hunting every day.
Right.
You're either going to hunt
These
or die.
These analogies are getting just wild right now. Go on, keep going. I get it. I'm trying to follow it. Keep going, Loco. You're either going to die or you're going to catch the animal, right?
Yeah. So like everyone in NA is like hunting, and then CLG is like growing a farm.
What's so weird about that analogy is, like, of all the people, there's no way you know anything about hunting. All you've ever hunted was a Pokemon. That's it.
But it's like basic history. It's
Yeah,
like
it wasn't
how
bad.
humans
Wasn't
like
bad.
what if it evolved or like how we developed like
Well, I mean,
because
God
we were
created
able
us
to like
6,000 years
cultivate.
ago, but you know, whatever. It's just a theory.
Listen, you haven't seen Locodoco on Tinder. Like,
Okay.
Fuck.
Fucking hell. I can't even imagine.
Actually, my Tinder experience has been terrible. What is it? I installed Tinder about 2 years ago. The first match I had messaged me, "Are you Locodoco?" And then after that, I deleted Tinder and I never installed again.
I'm actually amazed at that because I assumed that the reason they said, "Are you Locodoco?" is that your profile was like OGN Spring Split 2012 finalist Locodoco of the team MiG Frost, like, you know, 2 times LCS champion. I assumed it was like that in the bio, and then, you know, your actual picture was you hugging Bjergsen when you won LCS, and then you like Reggie next to you in the next one, and then obviously the third one just doing the peace sign with some random Asian girl because that's like 90% of your Twitter.
Okay, it's more boys, but okay.
Well, okay, Grinder then. My mistake. Back over to you, LS. Fucking hell, what's going on here? What are you talking about? Oh, you meant the Twitter. My
Nice
mistake.
segue.
My mistake. Okay, my mistake. So, what do you actually think then of the new Immortals? Because in theory, Immortals was the team where, even though Smithy has obviously always been good, I don't think anyone's ever really dissed him when he was on CLG. You probably should have expected Immortals to be the one who wouldn't have that big of an upside to having him, because actually Dardoch going off in Immortals was one of the best things about the team, it seemed. So what do you make of the new Immortals, and are they legit? Like, can they actually go all the way?
This one's actually like really easy. So why they became so good and like why their players are so much better than they were before. They added Song and Xmithy, and they subtracted Dardoch. So by subtracting Dardoch, they have better team environment, and it also helped Pobelter, because it looked like Pobelter and Dardoch struggled a lot from the video that Immortal released. I mean, it's a very, very small piece, and also mid laner and jungle, you're just intertwined. Like, if you as a mid laner, you're just intertwined with your jungler. So that's why Pobelter is playing better, and also like everyone gets like the buff up, the team environment just being better. I mean, jungle, it's like Jake comes in. Like, Jake necessarily isn't a better player than Dardoch, but they have different strengths, and the strengths that Jake has like really worked well for Immortals, where they were lacking direction. And then Flame gets improved by Song, so he has a Korean-speaking coach that he can respect, that he can talk to, and they're actually playing way more bot-sided, and Flame's more fine with giving up stuff. So, I mean, that's why Flame's doing better. Ole gets activated by Song. They're playing more bot-sided. The meta was really favorable for him. People aren't playing Karma Lulu. They're playing more Thresh, Blitz, Braum, Alistar, Rakan. So he gets to play playmaking. He gets to do what he wants, so he plays better. Cody, now under, like, I feel like Cody like improved like the least, but like the environment is just good for him. He can just listen to Song and Ole. So everything just fits really, really nicely. And it's not just Jake. I think Song coming in was really, really big.
I think To an extent, that's true also, because I do think that if the funny thing about Smithy on CLG, and obviously Zix is a really well-respected coach as well, but is that he would say that he knows what to do, but he doesn't really know how to articulate it, which is why I was really skeptical of him moving to Immortals and Immortals wanting like a leadership presence. But now, like, it seems like he's able to do the leadership role better and articulate it better. And I think that probably is coaching related. So.
And also, it's not that Tony's a great coach, but after 4 years with Tony, like learning under a new coach, like that year, like you learn more under a different person than the same person you've been with. Probably,
but I do think that Tony is one of those people who is like also constantly like challenging and finding new stuff and improving.
Coaches can improve as well, Loco. I know.
Really?
I know you aren't aware of that, but you can actually shore up your weaknesses as a coach, you see, and not keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, you know, and then improve in life.
Okay. What if you're max leveled?
Sometimes thinking you're max leveled can be the obstruction to improving.
That's like the NA mentality.
I think we got somewhere here. That's like progress. It's like therapy for you, Loco. This isn't even a show, actually, mate. I just got everyone in here to have like a personal therapy session with you, and we're trying to work out your issues. Never even gets released. No, it's just this is all just psychodrama for your life. Like we don't really care about Longzhu, etc. We're just trying to figure out, does Loco know? I can't keep fucking up over and over again, you know.
I definitely would have know my weaknesses, and also working in Challenger. You have a lot less options in terms of players, and you have to work more with the players you have. Yeah. And work sometimes like around the resources you have. And working in Challenger taught me more than working in LCS, at least for the last year. I learned more this year than I did last year.
Okay, that's good. Back to Immortals then. So, can Immortals win LCS?
Oof.
I mean, you don't want to say yes just because TSM's existence makes it hard to say yes. But I think
is this the same TSM as the past though? Isn't this kind of like a weaker one?
Can they win? Can they win? That's like a straight yes. Like they can win. Like is it likely? That's like I feel like it's a 3-man race. TSM, C9, and Immortals. Those are the only 3 teams with real potential to take it all.
And it was actually interesting that you said you think you favor C9 over Immortals, because I'm the other way. I think I favor Immortals over C9.
I value long term. I value people staying together, improving together, like being through struggles together, like dealing with things together for like the first time. Like for this Immortal roster, they actually had not have to struggle. They just been like up on the rise. I think like there might be a hilarious situation where they lose their first round of playoff, or like the second round of playoffs, 0-3. They lose the first game and they tilt, and they lose the next 3 games. And Immortals has a history of an org has never won a playoff game. If that happens,
okay.
I do think that the team minus Smithy has struggled for sure though. Yeah. And even with Dardoch, they were showing upticks. So like they have worked through struggle at least as a 4-man unit before, because last split Immortals had like a terrible start. So I think, I have a little bit more faith in them. And I do think that there were some issues with coaching last split that can't really be applied to the team this split for why they didn't adapt to patches and things of that nature. I think C9 have actually not adapted or grown that much as a unit. Like if you compare them to CLG's sort of progress as a unit, I think C9 are really lacking. And sometimes even last year in the Gauntlet race, they benefited a lot from no longer having to lane swap because they were terrible at that. So I think that that's something to consider as well. So I'm a little bit questionable on C9. I think that they're a good team, sure, and I think that the meta favors them, but I favor Immortals a little bit more.
I think they're a lot of times C9's draft is whack, and I don't think it'll be that way for playoffs. And they did stagnate, but it is like very, in a way, like expected for them to stagnate when I feel like they have the best laners in their solo lanes. Jensen for sure, and Impact's the godly laner. So it's like if you have a huge lead every time, it's really easy to not improve.
Sure.
We'll see. I just feel so uncomfortable like saying Immortals is gonna win because they just haven't shown as much, and they haven't they just have it's like the Longzhu situation where maybe they did struggle as a four-man, but I'm not sure how they're gonna do as a 5-man, and it is in a way like a brand new team, like it's their first time like actually working together. Working well together, not like the first time working together, but the first time working well together.
Their bottom lane, yeah, I think Cody is still going through a lot of growing pains and issues for sure. So that's a fair criticism. Like, I think Cody's last week was pretty poor, or not this week, but the week before.
I mean, his secret obviously was just to set the expectations so irredeemably low that in any way playing competent or above average looks good, and then everyone's like, "Wow, oh, you can actually play the game, nice."
Sure.
That's his career story. Okay, I have a question. It'll sound like an abstract one, but one thing I actually do worry about with Immortals in the playoffs is even if stylistically they match up fine with all the teams that they've been against, and they've had a pretty good run through the season, they've looked pretty good throughout the whole split, nearly always in all regions, the best team, the one that wins the split, it's the same in a lot of sports as well. You can't just have an amazing team. You usually also have to have like a superstar.
The best player.
You know, you have to have the guy where, like, you know, in that one big game, he makes like the huge play, or just has the one game where he takes over in a bad matchup or something. You know, like that's where it feels like Immortals is kind of actually stuck in the situation that some of the old CLG lineups were, that Smithy was up, where it's like they don't really have that, I feel. Is that relevant, do you think?
I think the ceiling of a team is your best carry player. So the ceiling for Immortals would be how good Pobelter is, and Pobelter is a very consistent player and not a very like explosive player. So maybe they can't match the carry potential of like TSM's Bjergsen Double Lift or C9's Jensen Sneaky.
I mean, if you're going to go to Pobelter immediately, then you look at the mids on the other two teams. So it's a little bit tricky, but I think there are options for them, and I think that they've been looking at bot lane a lot more with like the cog picks and stuff like this. I wish they would stop playing Jhin, but I don't know. They're a flexible team. I will say that, but I think that if star power comes into the question, that I think it's fair to criticize them.
Because I have to say as well, even though, it's true, obviously they changed junglers, and if you look historically at the difference between Smithy and Dardoch is a little bit more like the sort of jungler who uses the laners to himself get ahead. So it's almost like, what tools do I have to win the game? Whereas Smithy was always more like the team buff guy anyway, you know? That's why actually I think on CLG sometimes you could see the weaknesses of Darshan sometimes, that you had Smithy the whole time and he wasn't really doing that much, you know? He would sometimes be underwhelming. But I actually have to say, from watching Immortals this split, I think some of what made Flame look better as well was just what was available. Like, if you can just put Flame on Renekton all day long, he's like one of the best Renekton players of all time. Like, that's a matchup he knows every single possible matchup to play that into, you know. So it's a bit different if you're just getting 24/7 put on Nautilus, you know. You're not going to look amazing doing that. It's a dog shit champion.
Maybe.
What do you mean maybe? It is a absolutely dog shit. But that's the sort of champion where when you win the game, it's like, cool, I won the game without even having to play League of Legends.
It is a lot easier to show skill on carries than it is on tanks. I'll admit that.
Nautilus is like the fucking Nunu of top lane. It's like, how many other people's game can I ruin this game? That's my job, is to ruin everyone else's game. It's not to actually play the game and have fun myself.
Some people are better at ruining games than others.
Yes, you know. Riot development software team #1 of all time in that respect. So
I like this patch, at least. I think 7.14, once it got figured out, it's actually a way more varied and way more
okay, I have a question
open
for you.
than people.
Based on both splits that we've been talking about so far, it seems like it doesn't matter what region you look in general, all junglers look way worse. Like, there's not that many strong junglers in all the different regions.
Korea would
disagree?
be Ambition.
If you have to start there, you're already in trouble, mate. If that's the
Ambition score.
Yeah, there's 2, and one of them is just historically like a ridiculously high level player.
Ambition score cuts.
That ain't that hot.
Yeah.
If that's your top 3 from Korea, I think you just made my point for me. Because normally Korea, you can go mad deep on the junglers, you know.
Would you put Peanut instead, Kelsey?
Yeah, Peanut, or I would put Peanut or Blank over Cuz, like both of them. I think Cuz is still a little green, and he still does a lot of invades he shouldn't take. So I also am known to rate junglers on how they play to the lanes, or overrate them on pathing decisions, I think. So that could be an issue.
For NA, it'd be Jake, or Xmeti for show. Sven has the whole quote me when Sven dies meme. Sven's been okay. Jake for sure has been doing really well. Lyra still like signs of brilliance, but most of the time, when he's losing so much pressure from top lane, it's hard for him to do much. I don't think like Lyra is like playing worse. Like the situation he's in is, I guess it is harder for jungler to do things more nowadays.
What do you think contributes to that? Like what's changed in jungle? Do you think in this respect?
So, when junglers are the strongest in the game, it's actually level 3 and level 2. You hit level 2 before anyone, you hit level 3 before anyone, and when you hit level 3, you have 2 things, like you have 2 mega buffs around you, like red buff and blue buff. So when junglers can abuse level 2 and 3 the most, that's when they're the strongest. So that would just be like Lee Elise meta. And Elise still is like kind of popular and played. Lee, not so much, and there's a lot of junglers like ahead of that, like Maokai, Zac, Gragas.
Yeah, junglers that can abuse first clear really well are good. And I think
doesn't that make Dardoch's sins even more unforgivable then, since this should have literally been his time, you know, like with a decent team around him, this should be his chance to be the carry.
In NA, like the meta is kind of different. In Korea, it's like a lot more Jarvan Elise and like a lot more ganks and level 3s, but like NA, it's a lot more tanks. So I mean, it wasn't. Every split is important for a player, and this split was extremely important for Dardoch, because if he did well on CLG and they made playoffs and they went to Worlds and did well, like his stock would skyrocket.
Kelsey, this is not to be taken as personal attack.
Oh, go for it.
In your article you wrote about Dardoch, the theme that you heavily pushed was the notion that, one, Dardoch is not special. Like, you can get other talents from NA who can be good, and you have to give them chances. I think that was like a key element that you're emphasizing, you know, whereas, you know, people had it as a self-fulfilling prophecy that, like, because Dardoch's so good, that just shows, you know, the gap for everyone else. They're all shit, so don't even bother with them. It's just, you know, Dardoch or bust. You're either going to go Dardoch or an import. Right? Yeah, clearly I don't think anyone can disagree with some of these general points, but you did use Mike Young as one of your examples, along with Arcadian. Other people were like, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. But, you know, these people aren't as good as Dardoch, are they?
I think the thing is that what we can attribute to Dardoch now is that he had a really good debut. And his debut is really strong, and he showed like smarts and intelligence, and he showed like these potential, but the fact that he was like kind of rated so highly in general was the force of my article. Made it almost seem like he didn't necessarily have to improve as much as the other junglers, because he could just kind of like, if the team didn't go well, he could wait until the next team, and then he could really focus on improving with that team. So I think that junglers like Moon, who definitely were not as good at Dardoch or didn't have the same debut, like caught up in a lot of ways. And I think that Mike Young has had like an amazing debut, and he has he's like mechanically talented. I think that a lot of the problems with Mike Young are that he kind of is allowed to control a team as a rookie and control how the team is going to play. And I don't agree with a lot of the jungling ideas that he has. And I think they're like super high risk. So I think that was a big problem for P1 as well. So I think that Mike Young, in terms of mechanical talent, maybe like similar to Dardoch, but Dardoch was definitely smarter, I guess you could say. But I think that as long as you can list these guys who are comparable and who like maybe like Moon are going to be really hungry and work really hard compared to what Dardoch is doing, then you can't call Dardoch special until he kind of cashes in on what he started out with, if that makes sense. Dardoch
is way more special without Moon, Contracts, Acadian, whoever, Mike Young, like they're not as good as Dardoch, but Dardoch was way more special when there were no players like that.
Right. Him bursting out onto the scene was innovative, and now you have some junglers that are starting to come up, although I think that Mike Young's the best mechanical jungler to come out in recent times, for sure.
But here's the part that I don't understand about the premise, though, is all of these players we're talking about that aren't Dardoch are in good team situations where the team seems to fit them. A lot of them are playing actually like career best League of Legends when you remember their name most prominently. Maybe some of them not now, obviously, but you know, when people think of them most fondly, Moon in FlyQuest. I even referenced the Guardian when Echo Fox had that little spike early on in the other split. When you think of these players, that's almost them playing their best. Most of the times you think of Dardoch, isn't that first split? He actually was doing very well in teams where it was like a brand new team, totally different players. Sometimes clearly behind the scenes he didn't get along with these players, had terrible synergy, but was still actually very good in the get. So to me, that's why there will always be a distinction between him and the others. Like, they are good in a team environment that way. The reason why people take... What I didn't understand about the article was an element of the theme seemed to be that, like, people... almost reinforced with Dardoch, like, you're a total asshole, but that's fine because you're really good. For me, it's the other way around. People were like, no, that's the one thing we can't accept, but we have to keep giving you a try because there's still more potential there that if any of us ever tap into, that's like you've got the lottery ticket, you know. And people were willing to try that, you know, no matter how bad he was as a person.
I think the assumption made was that we weren't going to have, like, good NA junglers that could compete with Dardoch, or NA-born junglers that could compete with Dardoch, and so because of that, he was really valuable. And yeah, eventually the thing that ends up getting him kicked was the asshole part, and that was the part that they didn't want, but they were willing to overlook it because, yeah, I think you can work with players like Dardoch for sure, but some of the storyline and the narrative and the way that teams were treating him, I think, to an extent, reinforce this idea that we have to hold on to Dardoch because there aren't going to be other players like Dardoch. And I think that that was a problem because we made this assumption that there wouldn't be other players like Dardoch, and there are at least players that I think can compete with Dardoch or that have shown the ability to improve, if that makes sense.
Okay, here's the best way I can summarize it based on what the premise you just set up there.
Sure.
The difference is none of those other teams have won LCS. So these junglers have had good initial periods and they've been good for their teams. Nobody's won LCS.
Nor has Josh.
Maybe the closest. Yeah, that's the point I'm about to make, mate. I haven't finished my sentence. The closest is maybe Contracts, because obviously he could have won the last split in theory. Now, the issue there is this. The reason why, beyond who he even is as a player, Dardoch is so valuable is because in theory, you could have a team where you have two imports that aren't your jungler, and your jungler could maybe be a star player. So you could have ridiculous kind of like raw talent in your team, whereas any of those other guys, yes, Contracts could have won LCS. He wouldn't have been that main reason for it, though. It would have been Impact, it would have been Jensen, it would have been other elements that would win you it overall. So to me, that's why there will always be a little extra reason why people will give Dardoch a chance. Well, maybe they won't now. Maybe he actually has blown it, who knows. But in theory, that's why to me, there will always be an extra kind of like leeway given him, or people will keep giving him extra chances that they won't with the others. But that's the distinctive
Dardoch's
factor.
like high strength. Also, what if it cancels out with his high negatives? It's if he had those strengths without the negatives, then yeah, like I feel like I would personally at least lean more towards your side. But I mean, when your strengths are really high and when your negatives are really high, you just become a really extreme player, and it's hard to build a team around you.
What do you mean my side? I'm not saying that Dardoch is like the best jungler. That was never the premise for me. The premise was that
I'd be more inclined to agree with your premise.
Okay.
I think my issue with your premise is that I think last year there was a huge gap between Dardoch and NA junglers, and this year I feel like there isn't. Like, I feel like if you look at that and you say, I don't think Dardoch would be a star player this year. Like, he hasn't played like he's a star player this year. Just in terms of like some of the predictability of the way that he plays around top, or he ignores like when he's playing around one side of the map, there's like a lack of communication to the other side of the map sometimes. There are a lot of issues with Dardoch that I kind of agree with Locodoco a little bit, make it difficult for him to call him a star player on any of the lineups he's played on this year.
I think Dardoch could boost low tier team to mid level just by how good he is, and I'm deathly afraid of playing against TL in promos because of that. But what is it, to be like top tier, as like you said, or as we've talked about on the show, like your weaknesses really get exposed, and like having like that clear of a weakness might not be like it's more suited. It's like really good having like that brute force kind of player in like low tier to going to mid tier, and then at that mid tier you have to shore on your weakness to be able to keep going up.
Sure. This is why, though, I stressed that the emphasis is the premise of the article. It's not that I'm saying Dardoch is the best NA jungler. That is not the premise at all. Because remember, again, it's not even about best NA jungler. It's about who's the best for the particular team, you know. Like maybe actually Moon is the best jungler for FlyQuest. Who knows? But in this particular sense, the reason I'm kind of distinguishing that I still think that you have to put Dardoch in a separate class, which isn't to say that he would be better than one of these players on their team, is because the difference is this, okay? All of those players, I don't know how much they could improve in the game much more. Because first of all, most of them have agreeable personalities, already have good synergies in their team, already fit their teams, already have played quite well. The difference is Dardoch has actually played well at times, in spite of what a terrible influence he's been on the team. Like, I will grant you this. The hardest thing to change in the game, in theory, is actually anything psychological or mentally approached, because like coaches aren't even equipped to deal with that. Like a lot of that's on the player himself. You know, you can't coach a team strategically and set all the team up and be a psychologist for a guy and fix all of his issues. But the difference is, it's not impossible that could be fixed one day. Whereas the difference is, Moon can't just become 1.5 times better in the game, which is the only area he can improve in this respect. You know, he's not an asshole. That's not holding him back.
Wait, so are you saying it's harder for Josh to be more a better teammate than it is for Moon to be a better player?
It is in theory, but the difference is it could happen. Whereas I don't see how Moon could be twice as good as he is now as a player.
I think people would have said that about Huhi a while ago, no? Or like a year ago.
I think that's a pretty extreme example. I think you picked like one of the most extreme outliers there.
I feel like Moon outside of in LCS was garbage. He didn't know how to engage, or like he had a bunch of other.
It does help having high as your mid laner and your shot caller. And
I actually feel like Moon has improved a lot to the point where he's like one of the best players on FlyQuest for sure. So I mean, yeah, it's FlyQuest, but like
I mean, it helps having high as your mid laner. When he had fucking Phoenix as his mid laner, it didn't look so hot.
And so, yeah, but because you have those resources, I think, available to players like Moon, then they can improve, and he did improve. So I think that's worth showing. But my problem with Dardoch is I feel like he hasn't really improved, and that's a big problem for him.
Because the area to improve is with team synergy, right? He has to be able to work with people and get more out of them and improve what his impact on their game is.
Sure, I think that's true, because I think you have to do that in order to improve in the elements of the game where he's weak as well.
Because part of the area where you quoted me directly in that article was from Breaking Point.
Yes.
And I don't know if you misconstrued this or you genuinely actually thought this is what I was saying. But when I said the part that he basically is the most valuable and he can do whatever he wants and he will always be in the team, was exactly in the context of what actually happened. Which, if you remember, was they benched him. They were like, right, we're going to discipline you now. You're benched. They brought in this guy. Who was it? It's exactly who we're talking about. Moon, a very amiable person who's going to do what you said, and he shit the bed instantly. And they had to they couldn't even go through with sort of the exercise, going through the motions of like, right, we've disciplined you. You got to earn your spot back. They had to instantly basically say, please help us. And then you could even see the look on his face was sort of like, I won this one, That's my point. It's Team Liquid who sent that message. They're the ones who sent the message to Dardoch.
I know.
You can do anything you want to do,
Yeah, that's kind of the people that I'm blaming are Team Liquid, and the teams that have sent the message to Dardoch is like, I think that's an issue for sure. So,
like, I actually think, sadly, in the case of Dardoch, he probably literally fucked his career up only on this last split, which will sound weird, right? Because obviously he was terrible for the influence on Team Liquid. He literally just wasted his opportunities on Immortals and almost stagnated the team. But I actually think the reason he's fucked it up on CLG now is because now he is stuck back on Team Liquid, and then who knows what even happens when you go to franchising. If he could have just stuck around till CLG got into franchising, now he actually might have been able to have the room to develop, because then they could have made him go on the challenger team. They could have made him sit out. They could have done all these things that actually you can do in Korea, you can do with a real sports team, which maybe could get through to a guy. But he's blown his chance now. He was in the environment where maybe that could have happened one day. And I feel like now it's just gone. Like in Team Liquid again, they've actually just, funnily enough, come full circle. Please come back. We'll take you. We need help. You know, like he's never going to learn in that scenario, is he? Because why would he? People like that who have such incredible talent, it's kind of like what you were saying before, Loco, about Western players. They just, because they have a strength, and the strength applies some of the time, their constant habit is when things go wrong, they just go back to their strength. So in Dardoch's case, there'll always be some low-level LCS team that'll give a chance, you know? And
Dardoch's really good for low-tier LCS teams.
And he'll always be able to boost some of these teams. So in his brain, he'll keep thinking, right, I fixed all the problems of the past. I'm getting back. You know, we're getting to the mid-table right now. I'm going to go forwards. But you're not, because you've never addressed any of the problems you had, you know.
You know what Dardoch reminds me of, Thorin?
Come on. Someone from anime, hopefully.
No. Idra.
No? Okay.
What? Oh,
Idra.
my God.
Yeah, I can see where you're going with this. Yeah.
No, he's headed down the same path.
Yeah.
He's literally headed down the same path. So Idra's removal from Evil Geniuses, either, in this sense, either Dardoch wakes up or he's destined to ride the same road Idra did.
I even think if you ever look, he's oftentimes...
Is he gonna shitpost on Team Liquid forums?
Who?
Mate, he shitposts on Twitter. What are you talking
Idra
about?
could have been so much more than what he ended up being, and he didn't let himself.
But here's one of the reasons why, though, LS. And this is something I agree, I think Dardoch shares, which is that if you ever listen to interviews with Dardoch, he's a perfect example of someone where actually the interviews are very telling. Because a lot of people in interviews, the reason why most interviews, especially Korean ones, you don't have to pay that much attention to, is because they understand the concept of PR. They understand the concept of, in my brain I'm thinking something, but I will tell you something different, because then in your brain, you will have a different perception of me. People like Idra and Dardoch don't understand that. They actually think that you have to say what your brain is thinking. Like, they don't realize you can lie, you can trick people. So they end up in interviews telling very telling stuff. And what you find with both of these people is, they completely externalize all faults in the game. So even though there probably was a fault in something their team and their teammates did, they take that fault and they go like, right, well, since he did this wrong, everything I did wrong in response is not really my fault because he did this wrong, you know, which was the ultimate thing Idra was the worst at, because if the opponent did something wrong in like a pure metagame sense in StarCraft that, you know, normally should lose you the game, Idra would then justify himself fucking up all the rest of the game and losing the game. So
that's a lot of mental gymnastics.
No, but so basically what he would literally do was sort of tell an opponent who just beat him, you beat me, but since you did it the wrong way, you're an idiot.
You're bad, yeah.
Which is really sort of, I mean, listen, you can sympathize if you really went in a very deep, abstract concepts of how they play the game. But
the careers aren't real. They're
externally, it's an incredibly stupid way to approach the game, obviously, because you will never improve. You can always find a way where it was the other guy's fault. And at the end of the day, if it's his fault that he's beating you, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, you know. I mean, the worst part is, when you watched the interviews with Dardoch when he was on CLG and they were winning those games, oh, Jesus Christ. He had the most punchable face of all time. He was so smug, it was unreal. Like, this is how you know he's got some sort of issues to deal with as a person still. He would, like, take pride in them beating Team Liquid, who were utter shit at the time. Like, why is that still on your priority list?
Because he's really young and because he hasn't had, like, the best... Because he hasn't had the best coaching, and because he hasn't had... like the right kind of help. Like I'm a really good coach when it comes to game knowledge.
Come on, yeah.
Wait, let me finish. Yes. I'm a really good coach when it comes to game knowledge, but as a player to develop, like there's a lot of skills that needs to be taught that frankly I don't have. Like that's why coaching staff at GCU, like we have additional people other than me that have different skill sets. And in StarCraft and in like just like soccer or NFL and NBA, like you have a lot of coaches. Like you don't have one coach. Like you have your positional coach, and you just go through so much training before you even step on the field, like on an official game. For League of Legends, you go from like being a nobody to being a somebody within a year, and you don't learn a lot of those things. Like I think Josh, under a good
he's an example of someone who became a pro without essentially being coached, right? He just jumped into it and was just a pro suddenly.
If Josh was 2 years younger and he debuted at 2 years younger, like after franchising and after like good coaches, like good systems, like things being more structured, like I'd imagine he'd find way more success.
Okay. Because here's the thing. I actually think that the real reason why we can't fully appreciate Dardoch's situation is because we all saw Breaking Point, and that was obviously one part of a story because they had to cut certain elements out, right? So obviously what we need to see is the alternate Locodoco director's cut of Breaking Point, which shows all the Locodoco elements. So what I want to do, right, is there was a documentary done recently, Loco, that was about Scientology. And it was with this very famous British interviewer called Louis Theroux. And what he did to make his documentary really unique is he'd managed to get this guy who'd left Scientology, but who used to be sort of like the number 2 guy in the world, basically. You know, he was like just below the head guy. And so the way he made this documentary really interesting was he got this guy to help him make recreations of things that had happened, you know, like meetings that like the head Scientology guy had and like, you know, big clash points. And by having the number 2 guy there to sort of tell him, no, it wasn't like this, you know, it was more, you know, like tell the actor who's playing a particular character, no, play it a bit more like this, you know. In a way, what you realized when you saw the recreations was you kind of got to really imagine what it was like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crowdfund. We're going to make Breaking Point 2, but it's going to be you getting all the like, obviously we'll draft in, you know, I mean, it'll have to be like Shia LaBeouf or someone actually mentally unhinged, but a young actor with some talent. You know, he'll be Dardoch. You know, we'll bring them all in. We'll bring all the best people in, and we'll make.
So I get to play my own part.
Well, who could play you better than you, Loco?
Thank you.
Exactly. So, right. So we haven't talked much about TSM yet. Like, no one's been saying about these other teams. Like, yeah, but the thing is, the reason why they won't win is because TSM's so good, and you know they've got all the qualities of the past. Isn't this a different TSM to the past?
They'll still be. I think they're still the favorites easily.
Why is that?
Their backline is the best. Double and Bjerg are really good. Haunter's good. Sven is good. Bio is good. Like they're just really good.
Great for them. The meta's so
and
good.
also on TSM, there's like a very very clear like who says what and it's gonna go. You have Andy. Like if anything goes wrong, like they'll just like funnel and streamline under Andy. And I think Bjerg and Double are really good voices for a team to get behind. Like it's really good to be behind carries in terms of voices. Like they just have all the pieces. Like and they won again and again. And like they've done this so many times. Like I can't imagine like someone making an argument that TSM isn't the favorite. At least like yeah, they're favorites.
Plus now even Haunter realizes that he's not the best top laner in all the West. Just like all you guys now do. So yeah.
What do you mean?
Sorry, what do you say? Sorry.
I feel like we're not
I
talking
thought
about
I started.
TSM.
My mistake. Sorry.
I feel like we're not talking about TSM because there isn't like much interesting things to say about them. Like they're winning, they're doing well. Like they're probably gonna do well again. Like that's so interesting.
I've got a question for you.
Thorin.
I've got a TSM
Goku.
I think the one like
wait a minute, right?
For them has been slow patch adaptation.
Okay.
And even like Parth admitted this. So
Sure, I mean they're
hold
better
that thought
than
for a
us.
second.
Go
Hold that
ahead.
thought for a second because
I think that's one issue, but especially with Riot like rolling out these patches like so frequently during playoffs or right before playoffs, that might be a problem for them. But I think that if you have like this week and then you have the best of series and you have the ability to watch the quarterfinals, I think they'll probably be fine.
Okay, right. With that said, let's put a pin in that for a second. We can't just ignore LS. That was LS's moment there. You guys all... He made his bold move. He said the words, TSM is Goku. Now, to me, that's not interesting because I don't give a fuck about that dog shit TV show from the 90s. But explain to me, LS, why TSM is Goku.
I mean, Goku, you always know he's going to win in the end. It's like expected. He's boring, he's dull. Like, I mean, boring in the sense that it's repetitive, right? And it's expected, and it doesn't really matter what happens in the series.
He had an overbearing father figure, like in Piccolo, who wasn't actually as good as him, but then eventually just stood behind him and sort of told him stuff to do. Was that good for you? Do you like that? That was Reginald. That was the analogy I was given.
Like I like how Reginald. I guess he's like King Kai in the series.
What about the plot armor that no one wins LCS more than twice in a row? Come on.
God damn it. Well,
that was
you know what?
Yeah, but that was
Gohan
like the
beat Cell.
plot armor that...
So, like,
Yeah, but remember
Can't
the
win 'em
plot
all.
armor. Remember the plot armor that, like, what was it? That Sven Skaren doesn't win in, what was it? He doesn't win in the spring split or something, and TSM has never lost it. What was the one that, like, got broken in the last one? Do you remember?
It was like
last
a jungler has never won with TSM
Twice in a row.
Twice.
Yeah.
There we go.
Twice,
Yes. Yeah.
So-
See, the problem with those sorts of storylines is, I think some
They're
people
true
don't-
until they're not.
Yes, some people
Yes.
don't realize they're supposed to be ironic. Like, no one actually thinks that's real. Like, you don't actually just go and bet all your money. Like, well, SK Telecom always wins, so here's my whole house. 'Cause it's like, well, the day that doesn't happen, you're an idiot, aren't you? You lose everything. As Loco said in his quite profound prediction about Samsung, either they win or they just don't go further than that match. You know.
Either they win Samsung and win the whole thing, or
Exactly.
they lose to Samsung.
Exactly.
Wow.
Listen, that is
But when you
ironclad logic.
improve, you improve your flaws. Yeah, that's good.
That was another good one. Here's the thing about Loco. People don't realise this. He actually has very profound things to say. It's just you have to sort of get him to unpack it a bit more, you know. The way he says it initially is just like the fortune cookie line that anything could mean anything, you know. But when you get him to unpack it, there's always something there. There's always a theory. There's always a logic to it.
I'm a good thinker, but I'm not a very good talker.
That's another way to say it. Unfortunately, we don't have direct access to your brain. We have to hear you talk. So in a world where I could just tap right into your brain, if I
Yeah.
could hack into your brain like Ghost in the Shell, this would be a totally different show.
It would.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, first of all, if I hacked into your brain, Loco, I wouldn't just only be going to the League of Legends part, mate. This show would have a lot more views. I'd take a little tour before I went to the League of Legends part. So. And I'll tell you one thing, though. I would go to the League of Legends part eventually, because at the end, I'd go to the League of Legends part, and I'd find out what you actually think about Santorin. And boy, would that be interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah, exactly. Outside of the PR...
I still think Lucas is good.
You did say he had 9.5 out of 10 mechanics.
I over exaggerate sometimes, but I won't take back the
Okay.
statement that I think Lucas is good.
So you won't take back a statement that you never said in the first place and have now just said as a replacement for an absolutely ludicrous
Oh, no,
statement.
I always said like Lucas has really good mechanics. Lucas is a good team fighter. Lucas is a great teammate.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, but we've gone from, if Faker is a 10 in mechanics, Santorin is a 9.52, well, he is a good player.
He was really fucking good that split in terms of mechanics, and that was an over exaggerated statement. But what are we gonna do?
Just live with it, I guess.
Well,
Just live the lie. So,
some idiot told me KT was gonna beat SKT last split.
okay, well, by your logic, they are a good team.
Sure.
I win then, right? See, we can all win if we can do that. If we can all just take it like 3 steps back of ridiculousness, we can all be fine.
Okay.
Speaking of which, speaking of taking it 3 steps back of ridiculous, did it shake any of your faith in the understanding of some of the NALCS commentators, how they ranked those AD carries early in the split?
Yeah. Oh god.
That almost was like they were just like, well, this guy's better because this number is better. Which is like, well, I agree, 10 is better than 7, but what does that have to do with him as an AD carry? Well, the AD carry who has 10 must be better than the one that's 7. Like, yeah, well, you didn't really explain it again there. You just kept going back to the number again. Did you know that he only has 7 and the other guy has 10? That was like the argument they kept going to like over and over again. Where was the qualitative judgment?
And tier lists inherently are like subjective, and they also like change over
Sure.
time. Like I know. Also for like it's so
Okay,
weird. making
Loco,
tier
but
lists-
that's the point. This is
Listen,
the
Andy
point.
doesn't change Loco.
Yes.
Why
This
didn't
is
you
the
pick
point I
Andy
was
in our
making,
semis?
though.
Might have helped.
GeForce. Oh shit.
This is the
But if
point
it's
I'm
better
making,
than
though,
that-
Loco. I agree. Tier lists should be subjective. Their problem was they didn't make their tier lists subjective. They made them objective based on numbers that have no subjective context attached to them.
Okay, I mean, sure, it was dumb, it was wrong, and also like I think the biggest part that was wrong about it is like they're making a tier list for that moment and like that week, but like they're
Yes.
viewing it as Doublelift as a B tier ADC like 2-3 weeks into the future. So at that point, like for different reasons, like Doublelift was a B tier ADC other than like the crazy number stuff you mentioned, and like that tier list would have like validity and like it's to like spark discussion. Like they weren't making that tier list to like I don't know, like value player salary when it comes to like franchising. It had like such little meaning and it got blown out of proportion. Like, why are we still talking about tier list from like fucking like 7 or 8 weeks ago? Like we're saying, it was
whack.
ridiculous that Doublelift got rated a B tier ADC like 8 weeks ago. Is it really? Like maybe 8 weeks ago, he definitely wasn't doing as well as he was now. So I just think the tier list was kind of stupid, and the community reaction towards it was even stupider.
No, I'm going to have to pull you up on that one there, because what you just did there is ridiculous. Where you just implied, like, well, it was just to provoke discussion, you know. It was just, just a social experiment, guys. I'm not really retarded. It's like, well, you seem retarded. You know, why is that necessary? Why is it necessary for Riot casters on their official broadcast to pull social experiments where they pretend to think things that they don't to provoke discussion? You know what provokes discussion? Real analysis, where you use your fucking brain and your eyes, connect the two, speak in an eloquent manner. That's discussion like a motherfucker. Actually discussing why the player on a lesser team is better because of the resources, etc. Not just going 10 above 7. Like, that's nothing.
Because guys, like, talking about who's better, like, as kids, like, you talk about, oh, my dad could beat up your dad. What is it? Like, oh, this is better than that. Like, we like talking about who's better.
Yeah.
People have different opinions, and they like having a discussion about it.
Listen,
and
Loco, I understand why people like it.
there.
I understand why people like it. I'm saying aspire to something more. Don't just go to the base level.
Sure, maybe they could have done more with it, but I think like overall as a concept, like it wasn't like that terrible. Like I thought it was hilarious that everyone started doing their own tier list, but like as a content piece, like a tier list, I don't think it's like inherently like that bad. Like, also, like if you have good criteria and if you give good reasoning and if you put like a lot of thought behind them, like what's wrong with making a tier list?
I think my issue with the tier list wasn't even that they made a tier list or that the way they ordered the 80 carries. It was like the criteria that they used was very much like
That's why
DPM or things.
Which is the point I'm actually making. I don't know why Loco keeps focusing on the tier list. The point here is the best commentators in the West continually peddle the line to fans that DPM is like the god stat. Like that stat really does tell you who was better. They do. They don't even tell you what champions they play sometimes.
But this was the argument that I had with people about Crown last year, for instance. Like there's so much more that goes into
you think DPM that early in the week was like fucking stupid. Like at DPM at the end of the split, like actually has like somewhat of a value, at least more value than like 2 or 3 weeks into the split.
It does,
like,
but you've got to really load it up though. You've got to like even be like, okay, this guy had the best DPM, but look, his team plays around AD carry and he got these, you know, it doesn't get that interesting until you add that in, right? Which is what the expert can do anyway, which is what they should do in my opinion.
Well, an example of like DPM being insane and then a player not getting recognition or something is like Spring Split Teddy, right? He had considerably less gold. His teammates were considerably further behind, and yet the guy consistently did abnormal amounts of damage with nothing. That's impressive as fuck. And yet, if you asked people to have a tier list of ADCs in LCK, he wouldn't be high up. He would fucking be down low. But it doesn't make sense.
Did he play like a ton of Varus? I can't remember.
Varus there is zero if you want to inflate your DPM.
Yeah, Varus is a way to inflate DPM in Spring Split. Fucking, that was really disgusting.
The purple side Varus gambit.
Yeah. Yep. It was, I think it's just like the DPM thing and the fact that we need to put a number on stuff without defining or extrapolating the number. Like the new damage rating, they give you things that go into it, but they don't give you like how they calculate it, which is kind of weird. So you don't know how much each of those things factor in. And then it kind of creates this idea that either your analysis is stats based or narrative based, which first of all, I don't like a narrative based analysis. It's just weird that they separate it into either analysis uses stats or it doesn't. And it's inherently inferior if it doesn't.
Well then. The tier list was dumb. Inherently tier lists are bad, but the reasoning was dumb, and how the community is reacting to it is pretty fucking dumb.
Okay.
Like, do you use Oracle's Elixir when you're deciding whether or not to hire a player, I guess?
I mean, not really. I remember like last time we used like Oracle Elixir was like something like, hey, our like the average game time in the league is like 30 minutes. Like we're at like 45 minutes for our average game time. Objectively, like we have problems closing out games. Like I think that was like the last time like I used this. Like stats need a lot of context behind them, and you need a lot of stats.
But that's kind of my point.
But there are teams that hire people based on this shit.
Yeah, you're not going.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, you're not going to, like, most people are not going to use like DPM. Like, that sounds absurd to hire someone based on their Oracle's Elixir DPM, but there are some teams that say, like, why aren't we using this information? Or usually it's not like coaches or analysts, it'll be owners who are like trying to get into the scene or something like that, which is almost more damaging, you know, because they have the money, so they theoretically have the power.
It's best to do it by nationality. Just pick up all the Koreans, and then you can figure out the rest.
Just look at the list, you know, and then like the one at the top, it's the one you hire.
Because I think the people who suffer the most, it's like LS's example here, it's always the guy who's very good on a bad team, because they have to be like ridiculously good to ever be able to stand out by these stats. Like, here's the reason why I always stress this and wreck casters in League for especially, is that if you go into any of the games that I've followed my whole life, I don't ever have to tell you a single stat to tell you why this player is really good and what the context of his team is and how they're playing around a bit. I'd never have to bring up a number to say why he was better. I could explain how he's actually qualitatively better and what all the context is. But I get really suspicious because in League of Legends especially, if you are on like a bottom half of a table team, how are you ever going to match up in these stats? Because the game literally snowballs as you fucking play. Like, you'd have to be like 3 times better to have the same stats as Bjergsen as a mid laner if you're in like 8th best team, you know.
Some teams in NFL and NBA did like amazing things with analytics, and I hear like nowadays, like when you sign contracts as an NFL player, like they compare like your yardage and like stuff like that. But like that's after like 10, 20 years of development.
Yes, it took a long time to get these stats. Yes.
And this is like very beginning parts of League of Legends and like stat development and analytics. So people are gonna fuck up. Natural part of it. Like, let's hope like people up top, the people that are supposed to be smarter than us, like don't fuck up.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, I've got a great point to tie to that, though. This is why it's not wrong to use those numbers, because it's true. One of the good things about stats is that they very quickly say something. But here's the key part: they don't. It should never end there. What should always happen is the stats come up. And that's like a reference point to explain to the beginner the game. Like, here's the stats he had. But here's the key detail, okay? Whenever they bring up stats, so I'll give you the example in CSGO where I do analysis desk stuff. If they ever bring up a stat, right, and let's say the stat in CSGO, you know, a stat might be what your win rate is on a map. So that's like equivalent to win rate on a champion, right? The difference is whenever they bring the stat up, I then add the context. That's the key point. So for example, say you have a win rate on a map like a champion that's very high, but it's actually because your team's very good elsewhere in your team and you can just sometimes get away with playing that. You're not actually that amazing on that champion or map in this particular case. I then add in that context, and sometimes I go against what the stat might appear to say. That's what I feel like people still don't often do in League of Legends. They go with the stat. They try to find a way the stat is right, why the stat does mean you're the better one or something like that. Whereas it's like sometimes you've got to be willing to go against it to explain to the beginner, like, okay, this is going to seem misleading, guys. It seems like he's very good on this champion here, but here's the context as to why. Because that's educating. That's actually giving the educational component that I think is your job as an analyst, you know.
And it's a new part of their job.
Yes. But you know what? Loco, they could improve. They could shore up their weaknesses.
I think they'd be more willing to improve if we didn't call them derogatory terms.
Yeah, you know what, Loco? It's basically me just holding back Freak and all those guys, you know?
You shouldn't want to improve for or against people calling you derogatory terms.
Kelsey, I've got to own up to it. It's all me. I'm the reason why Freak isn't some sick caster. It's all me. I keep being derogatory. Jat actually keeps telling me, dude,
I just feel like we have like access to actually talk to casters like in RL and online, like Twitter, Skype, whatever it might be. Yeah. And like I think like NA casters are pretty open to criticism, especially if you bring it about in a pretty like fair and like
that's a good joke.
Maybe like non-public, like over like Skype or DM. Hey, like maybe you shouldn't use stats this way, or like I don't think your tier list was good because of this, and like be productive for both sides.
So what we should do is take people whose job is to publicly critique someone else's job, but we shouldn't publicly critique their job because that might hurt their feelings and make them not want to improve at their job.
You can publicly critique people without like being an asshole.
Well, I haven't figured that out yet, mate. And you haven't done that great a job yourself either, so I don't know that we should really be having that discussion ourselves. At least that was tempting. You just critiqued me and called me an asshole. You failed instantly in your own example. Also, you did it publicly. What you should have done is said, yes, Thorin, you're right, and then DM'd me privately and said, maybe there's another way, and I didn't really like the way you talked about the tier list. Because now, by publicly critiquing me as an asshole...
I think you like our interactions being public and being online.
Yes, I like it, Rolf. I like it when they fight back.
You enjoy
Makes it
it.
more satisfying to dominate them, Loco. Yes. Now you found out a lot about my mind, but you didn't have to hack into it Ghost in the Shell style.
Okay.
Right,
Anything else
LS.
you want to talk about?
LS. You love Jensen, right?
Jensen?
As a player. Yes. LS loves Jensen, correct?
Oh.
Me?
Yes.
I think he's really good. Yeah.
He represents everything you like in a player. Like super sick player, mildly
No.
bad attitude.
No, it's not. It's not everything I like.
Really strong player. Relative to the NALCS, obviously he's not Korean. No, I can only do so
No,
much
no,
in the
no.
analogy. Yes.
I like the idea of like Jensen's a really good player, but
I have something.
I don't know how to answer this. This is really weird. I like the idea of incarnation more than Jensen as a player.
Okay. That's
Right?
a
They're the same
fantastic
person,
name for an
but they're-
article,
they're
by the way.
different.
The idea of incarnation.
Like stylistically.
So you feel like that's the alter ego he needs to bring out again.
I think, well, in a way, yeah. If he wants to level up, because I feel like he's stagnating in a way. People talk about how good he is and everything for like a while now,
Yeah.
but what's really changed?
You know, Jensen is Crown and Bjergsen is Faker.
That
Bjergsen
yes,
has a bang.
Bjergsen
Bjergsen has
that's
bang.
perfect.
Bang is double
Yeah.
lift, and Jensen is Crown. So
Yeah,
Bjergsen has
that's,
like a better team and like a better organization and like a really fucking good AD carry, and like he's always number one. And then like Crown is like reaching at him, like, and then he's like better in lane. Like he tries so hard, like
Right.
he improves and his team improves, but like they're always a little bit short.
That's a really, really good comparison. I just feel like I don't know what it takes for Jensen to go one step further again to like really take the crown.
C9, what is it? Gets a decent
I mean,
NA top,
that-
decent NA top,
unfortunately-
and they import jungle.
Unfortunately, that made it really, even though that's a perfectly reasonable turn of phrase, being as he had just compared him to Crown.
I know.
That made it a really awkward turn of phrase at the end there.
I think also in general, like has been a disconnect between Jensen and his jungler when they had Medius and when they had contracts. And yeah, you can criticize the jungler for sure, but I think that like there's not as much setup for when Contracts wants to go bot or Contracts wants to go top. Like what Jensen doesn't necessarily leave lane as much. I think he's gotten better at that, but
Here's a list of junglers Jensen has had in NA. Medios, very farm focused. He plays his own game, a good player on his own right, but not really a mid friendly player. And
yeah, I agree.
roll flop tie.
Yes.
I mean, he was like he was good in his own right, in his own ways, but I wouldn't say roll swap tie. It was like a top tier jungler. And then after that, he has
He's
Contracts, a rookie.
Or he had Rush as well, but we skipped over that.
And then
R.I.P.
Rush was also really good, but he was the junglers that Jensen had just aren't like complete packages. They're always like missing big parts.
Yeah, I know, but I also
Like,
think that like that's not a
Okay,
reason to just. I mean, like when he has the lane pushed out, like he doesn't do as much with priority as I think that like Bjergsen does. Like Bjergsen, even Spence Garen benefits so much from Bjergsen, and you can see like the distinction between where like Bjergsen's benefits from Spence Garen and Bjergsen benefit. You understand what I'm saying? Whereas I feel like
It's like a mutually beneficial relationship.
yeah, you can almost not see where Contracts benefits from Jensen because it's like there's just a disconnect completely. And yeah, there's probably a lot on Contracts for that, but I think that it has to be mutual.
If Jensen had Xmithy, would that get it done?
It would be the best shot he had so far. It would be the best shot he had so far. Way better than the ones he had.
Do you need to go now, Loco?
I would like to.
Reasonable. So Loco also hasn't learned PR, except when he's talking about Santorin. What he should have said there was, yes, I have to go now. Not, I would like to go. You're not held here against your will, Loco. We can wrap the show now, mate.
Okay, thank you. I've been here
thanks
longer
for
than
appearing.
expected, but it's been enjoyable.
Oh well, just anything else you want to tell us? You like
I-
Ellis's hair this episode?
My hair is
Okay. Kelsey actually looks really pretty.
I see you backtracking a little bit.
I know it's
several
mental,
weeks
isn't it?
ago, you know?
Why is he trying to win the crowd back over at the end? Like, he's made it all awkward. It was ridiculous flattery, right? We'll just end the episode on that.